TFNB, your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK.
And here we go on this Monday. Good afternoon. Hope you had a great weekend. There are games going on right now up in Oklahoma City, the Women's College World Series into the final or the semifinals elimination games tonight. And we'll update you on that. College baseball, some regionals that are trying to close out, and a couple of shock, now maybe 4 or 5 over the weekend, and including today in college baseball. The update on the Brendan Sorsby hearing in Lubbock County, and we'll have that too. And Craig SMOAK joins me here on 365 Sports. Craig, fun weekend, enjoyed the weekend, watched more softball and baseball probably combined than I have in a long, long time.
Yeah, I think I did the same. What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a good week so far. And, looking forward to diving into a few different topics, but absolutely had, at minimum, just background for most of the weekend involving softball, baseball, just kind of rotating depending on what was on at what time, and got a lot of both tournaments devoured this weekend on my end. I don't know about everybody else out there. You can chime in the chat on that, but I really enjoyed it. Love this time of year, and I love when we get down into Oklahoma City in the case of softball, and then obviously the road to Omaha. They're continuing to walk in that direction, but some really cool atmospheres. I think college baseball, when it's at this point in time and when you've got a lot of huge stakes and you've got these really cool sites like what you saw in at Mississippi State, or what you saw at Kansas, what you saw at West Virginia. It's just it's really cool atmospheres. It makes it really feel special, and it was awesome to watch a lot of that this weekend.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and we'll give you some scores in a minute. We'll update you on that. There's a game going on right now at OKC. There was already one played earlier today. Well, let's start with the Brendan Sorsby injunction hearing, and it was in Lubbock County. It lasted a couple of different hours, and nothing ruled yet, and it might be a week before anything occurs when it comes to Brendan Sorsby and his appeal for his eligibility to be returned. Let's go to a couple of different quotes, and I followed it. There's a guy named Jared Ramirez. He works for RedRaidersports.com, but he did a great job in the courtroom of just simple, no opinions, just what was being said by the attorneys for Sorsby and also the attorneys for the NCAA. But here is one of them on the Sorsby hearing. NCAA attorney Taylor asked you can't gamble on your own team. You can't gamble on your own institution. You can't bet against players on your own basketball team in favor of opponents' basketball players. You can't do that. And whether you were compelled by an addiction or you were just bored, it doesn't matter. There's no basis to differentiate between the two.
Yeah, and I'll see what else you have as far as quotes go, because there's a lot of directions we can go with some of this and some of the counter arguments. I mean, one of those I saw on the part of Kessler was pointing out, I believe it was the Indiana volleyball coach.
Yeah, we got that.
So, he had a compelling defense as far as, I don't know. I didn't really know what he would be able to do as far as the argument against why Brendan Sorsby should be punished outside of the mental health piece. And I'm not convinced by that piece alone, but he had some counter arguments to some of these things, like this quote right here that, at least make it more interesting. It doesn't look like we're going to get a decision, certainly not today, and probably not for a few days. I think about a week timeline is what it looks like, unfortunately. And for those of us hoping that something would happen today, it's not going to happen today. But that part right there, I agree with. I think it's pretty clear cut for most people out there. The only people it's not clear cut for are those defending Brendan Sorsby, and they've tried to, with his counsel, make a compelling argument. ultimately the folks in Lubbock will decide that, and our audience can decide along the way as they see some of these quotes as well. But as far as this particular one goes, I agree with all of that. You shouldn't gamble on your team, or you can't bet against players, so on and so forth. So yeah, I don't think there's anything all that anything but obvious with this quote right here.
Here's also this one, and this is from the attorney Askew, who's representing the NCAA, on the perception that student athletes would not come forward on their own addictions based on anything with the Sorsby ruling. Mr. Sorsby didn't come forward. He got caught. When he got caught, he went to treatment. That's the first we hear of this mental health concern. Jeffrey Kessler, who's one of the attorneys representing Sorsby, did discuss that himself in a rebuttal, and that's why the timeline has been so interesting about when did Tech know, what did they do when they knew. The NCAA learned from a sports book and eventually, of course, informed Texas Tech, and then here we are today.
Yeah, Kessler said that a qualified clinician verified Sorsby disorder, also said it's a problem plaguing student athletes, especially males. He said there will be no harm to the NCAA except its hurt pride and its arrogance that it doesn't want any court to tell it what to do, even though, frankly, the Supreme Court has told it that it has to follow what the courts tell them to do. I don't know. I think that's kind of I don't know if that's really directed this that part specifically, but the manufactured gambling disorder, he tries to counteract that with the statement from the qualified clinician saying that he does in fact have a disorder, but that doesn't say that he didn't initially go seek treatment when this was all found out, to the point of the prosecution here. So yeah, I mean, Askew saying that about the student athletes not coming forward, I mean, I think that's a hypothetical. I don't think that's necessarily true. So I'm trying to make sure I don't get all these parts confused. I agree with him on the perception that if Sorsby somehow gets in trouble, then nobody's going to come forward. I agree with him that that's not true. That's just speculation, and you can't just generalize and say that would be the case across the board and then somehow use that as a defense for why Sorsby should be found to not be punished as such. So I agree with Askew there, and I agree with the point being made that the first time we heard about Brennan Sorsby having a gambling issue was when the bombshell story dropped that he had been found out. Had he checked into rehab and then like 2 or 3 weeks later you hear about the NCAA, that would be another thing. But the timing was very peculiar, and the timing points to, hey, this is what I need to do. Personally, he needed to do it. Clearly, he has an issue, but also the timing of it did lead everybody who's not wearing scarlet and black or biased in any way to believe that, this was absolutely, as much as anything, a reaction to try to soften the blow as much as possible by saying, look, I went and got treatment, and that's exactly what they're doing.
All right, there's one other note from this is not the next one, Rez. Leave that up there for 1 second. But Askew also saying in his discussion, it is not a privilege. It is a privilege, not a right, to play quarterback at Texas Tech, and that with that, one agrees to be held to a higher standard than others in the general student body. Now, here are a couple of comments. And again, this went on for a couple of hours, and Jared did a great job. He's going to join us just after 5 to kind of give us his thoughts overall. Jeffrey Kessler, who, yes, he's one of those that was an attorney in the House versus settlement. The House versus NCAA settlement. He points to the gambling scandal that Craig was referring to involving former Indiana volleyball coach Brett Agnew, who placed over 27 bets on Indiana football and basketball, whose bets totaled over $300,000. Agnew completed gambling education and was suspended for 30% of the season. So there's an example. And coming off of that, and then we'll discuss it more, Eric Blevins, who's really good about breaking down things legally, made this comment. This is one of the best arguments for Sorsby on his contract breach legal theory, although I don't think it'll be enough to win the day. Quarterback Trinidad Chambliss and others won extra seasons of eligibility on this same theory by showing the NCAA inconsistently applied its waiver rules. There are some important distinctions from Agnew, perhaps the biggest that Sorsby bet on IU football while he was on the team, but it's the closest analogy I see to other successful injunction bids.
I thought this was a compelling angle, and Kessler's a good attorney, and you knew they were going to have some type of arguments, and I think this is one of the better shots that they took as far as trying to sow some doubt in those that will be determining the outcome here and saying, look, man, they in one hand they rule it this way, the other hand they rule it this way, and I think that's very true. I mean, the NCAA is wholly inconsistent. That's why all these eligibility lawsuits are all over the place, partly because they're in state favorable courts, even though that wasn't favorable to a couple of the guys trying to get eligibility. But also that had to do with kind of the attack they took, the game plans they had. In the case of like Joey Aguilar, for example, he went the wrong route with his attorneys and trying to get his year back versus Chambliss versus Heineke versus some of the other guys. But yeah, the inconsistency is something that you see across all sorts of cases, like just eligibility. So I think that's an area that you can certainly attack and kind of sow some doubt in the NCAA and their consistency. At the same time, it is interesting that there was this Indiana coach that bet on these sports, but he didn't bet on his own sport. And I see this response, and there's like a bunch of gotchas in the comments below this about like, see, gotcha there, and they're screwed. And now here's an example, but he didn't bet on his own sport. Brendan Sorsby bet on his own sport while he was at that school. And I see this, oh, well, he wasn't on the team or he wasn't playing. It's like, but he still had insider knowledge. Here's the part that you skip over. He was at practice, guys. He was watching practice. He had insider information. He knew if a wide receiver was hurt. He knew if the offense was struggling. He knew if the O-line had no depth. He knew if the quarterback's elbow was bothering him. He knew those things. So whether he was playing or not, I see where you try to use that. But in the end, he still got insider info that he's then going forward with. So that's where the difference is to me in this exact comparison is, hey, that's a really interesting argument that this coach – and Lord knows the coaches are their own downfall, right? Like every time there's why the players shouldn't make this money. Well, what about the coaches? Why shouldn't the players be able to move around? What about the coaches? Why shouldn't the players be able to do this? What about the coaches? It's the coaches are always like, damn it, like Newman, like kind of thing, because well, what about the coaches? And you're like, well, you're right. Like it should be two different cases because it's two different jobs and whatnot, but it does get muddled when you look at the freedom from one and then the freedom of the other.
I used to use the argument that coaches are in their own profession.
I agree.
And they are. But that's all but what now college athletes are.
Right, and that's where you get into the employment thing, and that's where it gets really muddy. So, like, that's why the whole, well, what about the coaches thing in regards to freedom of movement, in regards to a cap or lack thereof, in regards to all those things, it's always, well, what about the coaches? And it's hard to go, well, see what, and then, yeah, it does get into eventually employment versus not. And then you see why the schools don't want employment and so on and so forth. But the thing here is, while I think Kessler did a great job of bringing this particular example up, I don't think it's just the perfect example because, again, this coach did not bet on his own sports. And the argument for Sorsby is, well, yes, he bet on his own sport, but he wasn't playing. It's like, it doesn't matter. He still had the information. He still knew what was going on. So he had the ability to take advantage of that. And that's the problem that I have with that particular example. But I will say again that it was an interesting one to throw out there. And if it works well enough, that's all you need. You just need a little bit of convincing, right, to get your way ultimately. So maybe that's something that pushes the favor in the Sorsby direction. But I think if you drill down on it, you realize it's not the greatest example, and it's definitely not a foolproof example.
What they're trying to do, it appears, and believe me, I am absolutely no legal analyst. No matter what happens, Amanda Kristovich and all the others we've had, she's going to be with us sometime on Wednesday to kind of give us her update on that and more. But it is you're trying to prove inconsistencies. That's one of the things that mentioned by Eric Blevins of when you've made rulings, but then you haven't made the same ruling every time the same situation comes up. They're just trying to put holes in the argument. And the NCAA, they know this may be it for them. This is like their atom bomb. If they can't win this case, when they have cut and dried rules on gambling, especially against your own for your own team or whatever, your own sport, then what do they have left?
I mean, if they lose a case like this, then I think you have to just pour gasoline all over it and then just light it on fire and move on and start something else. I just don't know how you recover from that if you're the NCAA. I still am the belief that there will be a favorable decision for the NCAA when all was said and done, when everything's taken in totality. I think the damage that would be done to go the other way, especially having all of the evidence in front of us, because here's the thing, the case isn't whether Brennan Sorsby did this. He very much did it. He's acknowledged it. He's owned it. He's gone to rehab. Like, the question's not whether or not he bet dozens and dozens and dozens of times for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for years and years on multiple schools, including the one he's been at for all of like 5 months now. Yeah, none of that's in question. It's just trying to get the favorable ruling using the right argument, and by attacking the NCAA, that usually goes over well because there's not really a lot of people fond of how they do their business, and they are absolutely inconsistent in how they do their business. And so, that's the logical attack to make, is to go at the NCAA like they're the big bad enemy, even though Brennan Sorsby, the one that should be defending himself, they're going on the attack against the NCAA. So we'll see if it works in their favor. I do think that it's probably the only argument you can really make that gives you a chance. So we'll see how it works for them. It doesn't change my overall opinion, but I do see where they're coming from, and I can see where, maybe if maybe it works. I don't think so ultimately, but it's one that, at least when you go like, well, the coaches and, well, the NCAA, you can see where somebody might go, you never know.
All it takes is a little bit of doubt or a little bit of, well, wait a minute, let me go think about this. Also ask you on Sorsby betting on his own team. He bet on sports at his own institution. That's at Indiana. Then bet on other college sports at other institutions. Says that if this was one or two violations, he would still be, not hundreds or dozens or thousands or whatever. Just one or two violations would render him ineligible, but there are thousands of violations. That was Askew, the NCAA tournament on Sorsby.
If we were having this at any other time in NCAA history, this would be so open and shut. But the fact that it's happening now makes you have a little shred of doubt that, like, maybe, just maybe, they do find a way around this because of all the gambling advertisements and because of the fact the NCAA is the big bad boogeyman and they hate the student athlete, or at least that's the perception they try to give. They're not really for the student athlete. And I think Kessler pointed out a couple of, like, if you go word by word in the bylines, like a couple of areas where it says they're going to help the student athlete and offer aid. And then, like, apparently they didn't offer aid right away. So he tried to use that as, another way to put another hole in them. This is supposed to be Brennan Sorsby defending himself and his actions, and it appears their approach is to go on the attack and paint the NCAA as the bad guy in all of this, who's hurting the poor student athlete who's just a product of the environment that is gambling for youth. And I think it's all a bunch of bullshit, that argument. I do think, like I said last week multiple times, that argument in and of itself, as far as the big picture, is absolutely valid. And we do need to have conversations, and we do need to be concerned about our young people and gambling inundation and all those things. But I don't think it should be to the point where it allows Brennan Sorsby to play football anymore. And one of the compelling parts I saw from are they the prosecution? Like, is that the phrase?
The NCAA basically is a defendant.
Yeah.
They're defending the what they're trying to do, which is they've already ruled Sorsby ineligible. I don't know. You're right, because the prosecution is the one that usually holds the whatever it is. And the defendant would be, in this case, Sorsby, would be Kessler and Sorsby's attorney.
I just don't know if that's the proper term for this particular setting or whatever. But the NCAA's lawyer argued, so Kessler, I just mentioned a second ago, was trying to say the NCAA didn't follow its own rules. And he said, Askew, who's the lawyer for the NCAA, said, you cannot articulate what the NCAA didn't do, cannot point to anywhere in that contract where the NCAA did not follow the principles. And then he went on to say, if we're focusing on his mental health, how does throwing him back in the situation that triggered the behavior, prioritizing it, he needs to focus on his treatment. And that right there, I would be like, Case closed. Like, you're
Yes,
absolutely
but
right.
I thought about that, Craig. But one of the reasons he said he started betting on Indiana football was because he wasn't playing.
Which
and he
is
felt
total
that,
horse crap.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying that's part of the timeline of what he has said, and it's documented in what he has told the NCAA.
Well, you're not going to ever convince me that being at practice, participating in practice, going to classes, being on campus, being around your teammates, being at the facility, lifting weights, eating lunch, doing all the things that a guy on the team does, but just not playing officially in games on a consistent basis or at all, that one part of it, all the rest of it, is negated by the fact that you're not playing official meaningful minutes in Indiana means you're not like, spare me. Like, and I know what you're saying. That's just the argument they're trying to present to sow some seeds of doubt, to make him the sympathetic figure and all of that. But I just think that anybody with half a brain sees right through that argument, because the guy's literally taking part in every other facet, is a member of the team in every single way other than just having like official time in a game. So I would sure hope the people deciding are smarter than to buy that argument. If there's another thing that Kessler presents, then by all means, that convinces you, then okay. But that one I think is just so silly.
Well,
but in this case, there's only so many routes you could take. So I also acknowledge that there's not really a whole lot of great arguments to be made to defend him. So you have to go the route of, well, he needed to feel a part of the team.
Needed to feel part of the team. Yeah, you have to take care of him because he's suffering from the mental health of being an addict, etc. You're going to use. I know you one time you took the poor, pitiful me angle. However you want to phrase that. That getting him away from football will make it worse because and then there's wait a minute, getting him back in that same environment where he was that started all this would make it worse. It's just going to come down. That's where you have to come down to the rule of law. And that's where I am completely I'm out of it. I don't know enough about all the history of
the rule of law up to this point means that he should not be able to play regardless of what those arguments are. So I think when you say that part of like him wanting to feel a part of the team and all that, it's a privilege, not a right.
That's what he said.
And you can still play football, Brendan, in the NFL. So it's not as though this is that's the part that's really bothered me, I think, in this argument when I've seen, and I understand why Tech's doing what they're doing. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and defending him, being there, having his back, and trying to be a part of his argument in some way. But the whole, ripping football's not going anywhere. He can still play football. Why does it have to be football at Texas Tech specifically, or all this stuff's going to happen? So that's the part I don't buy. And that's very sort of see-through is no, he can still play football. Nobody's saying his football career's over. We're saying his college football career is over. He can go play all he wants to. He can go play overseas. He can go play in the NFL. But he just can't play college football at Texas Tech. It's that simple.
And by the way, you'd like to go, okay, if we let you play at Tech, will you play for free? I would say he probably says yes. I don't know that. I would think so.
Oh, yeah,
but
at this
by
point.
giving him the option, because does he want to play, or does he want to play because he's getting paid? And I know everybody now is getting paid. Just like a couple of little nuances as a part of that. Here's from A. Steve 989. I'm a Tech alum and fan. And how the university leadership, in my opinion, is handling this is embarrassing. Of course, Joey is going to speak in favor of Brendan, but Skovanec as the president of Texas Tech shouldn't be releasing any statements.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of back and forth with Tech, alumni, and there's a bit of a split there. I would say more that I've seen lean towards being just done with it and wanting to move on from it. And then there is the very vocal grouping of people who they just want to see him play. I'm sorry.
Get a drink. Just take a drink. Some water right there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying. You're gonna keep getting interrupted by yourself. That should help a little bit better.
The part that I've seen from Texas Tech fans, the minority that they just want to see him play because they think he can win games for them. I get that, but I respect a great deal the number of Tech fans who just take off the rose-colored or scarlet-colored glasses for a second and acknowledge that if this was a guy at Texas, you know how you would feel about it. If this was a guy at TCU, you know how you'd feel about it. the only reason there's a crowd of people in Lubbock defending Brendan Sorsby is because he's trying to play football for Texas Tech. And we all know that. They would not be pounding the pavement for him if he was the quarterback still at Indiana. They would be outright rooting for him to lose his eligibility. We all know that. So I think we all know where this should go, where it needs to go. But yeah, there's still some people that, hey, if I can benefit, then screw everybody else. We can have our quarterback and go win our natty or whatever you think's going to happen. So I just have a great deal of respect for those Tech fans that can step outside and say, yeah, it's bigger than just Tech winning football games. This is about college football. This is about the whole enterprise. This is about integrity. And yeah, there's a lot of places where you go, well, integrity was lost here and there and the other, but not here though. Like, we can still protect this part where, yeah, you don't gamble on your team. That does not get allowed ever. We can take a stand on this one thing and all agree on it. So yeah, there's always going to be the outliers of just the fans who want to see their guy play, but anybody who's reading the facts and who has, just a love for the overall as opposed to the selfishness of just my team, let's get away with it or get whatever we need no matter what, then it's pretty clear that where that line's drawn.
It's an update. And yeah, I think a lot of people, including most likely you, are probably out of oxygen when it comes to this, like you are with the college football playoff expansion. But it's a story and it's updated because there was a hearing today, and most of you, of course, agree with that. And there will continue to be discussion until there's any kind of final ruling, whenever that might be.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, you bring that up every time we talk about this.
I didn't. It was in the chat.
No, I understand that. I'm addressing the chat. Like, I can understand if you're a Tech fan, you're tired of hearing about it, or if you're somebody else, you're kind of tired. But it's a pretty big damn story, though. Like, it's a pretty big story. It's the transfer portal star quarterback who just got brought over for several $1 million for a team that made the playoff last year and is looking to make it back. And they're one of the top 10 teams in the country. And I can understand if you're a Tech fan, you just want it to be over with. Like, the wanting it to be over with part I get, but the actual process of it's actually pretty damn important and a pretty big story. So it'll be better when we can just turn the page for sure and get on to who the quarterback's actually going to be and then go from there and talk actual football. But in the meantime, I'm okay with this playing out the way that it needs to, and then making the decision, whatever that is at the end of the road. I'm intrigued by all of it.
The Bible of Texas football is called Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. It's now online at texasfootball.com, and it's an amazing site. Great people that work there. And a big deal every summer about this time in early June, they release the cover boy or the cover of the magazine. And, well, look who it is, Texas Tech, Red Raider Inc. And it's got Joey McGuire, Cody Campbell, James Blanchard, the GM, and also Kirby Hocutt, their AD, on the cover. I reached out to a couple of friends of mine that work there. I said, now we know that Mike Craven had to rewrite the actual football part of the breakdown of Tech football with the Sorsby suspension at the time. I said, how many different covers did you guys have? Did you have one that might have had Sorsby? There's Jacob Rodriguez on it. That makes a lot of sense. They wouldn't answer. They wouldn't tell me. They said they're not supposed to talk about it. I don't know. Maybe none. This might have been the original. That is released, the 67th edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, and the team that's a part of the moment, Texas Tech, on the cover.
Yeah, it's a cool cover. You mean Ben Roberts, or were you referring to a different cover here? That's not Jacob Rodriguez. You're not referring to that.
Oh, did I say what? No.
Yeah, that's Ben Roberts.
Ben
Jacob
Roberts.
Rodriguez,
Yeah, okay.
Jacob Rodriguez is in the NFL now.
Yeah, no, I knew that. I thought it would look like Jacob Rodriguez with that mustache, but Ben Roberts, who's also a great player for them.
Yeah, their linebackers should be pretty damn good with him and Romaine, among others.
I can't imagine, with all due respect, that was not Brendan Sorsby.
I mean, Ben Roberts is probably arguably the biggest name on their defense coming back. I'm just saying probably because I'm saying, is he bigger than Romaine coming in or somebody else I'm not thinking of maybe? But yeah, I mean, he's a really big player for them. But I would imagine that, yeah, it was probably Sorsby on that cover. I mean, that's typically how it would go, the star quarterback over the star linebacker. So wouldn't be surprised at all if they had to make a change. And whether they did or whether they didn't, everything's coming up Texas Tech these days except for maybe this Brendan Sorsby decision. We'll see in the next few days. But yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I think it's great for Tech. Like, I don't know, though, that I love Dave Campbell's featuring all the peripheral guys all that much. I know for the purpose of the story, like the business, the enterprise now that is Texas Tech football, I'm sure once I read it, it'll make even more sense. But it looks cool. It's a great thing for Texas Tech. I just don't really want the management on cover. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you had said this back even when Miami had their booster.
Yes.
They got popped, and we had heard a lot about him, that you do not want to get to the point where we're covering college football when the boosters and the donors are a part of the story, like players and coaches.
Yeah, I said this when John Ruiz and Life Wallet was happening. So this is like 4 years ago when NIL was first starting. I said, yeah, I don't want to live in a world where the boosters are household names and we're talking about this John Ruiz guy all the time. And you know what? We didn't, because eventually his company faded, had issues, and he kind of faded himself. And at least the algorithm doesn't put him in front of me like it used to there when he was Mr. Hot S, Mr. Miami, throwing his bags around and doing all that a few years ago. So he kind of disappeared. But there's no denying that that's what this has turned into, at least when it comes to particularly Texas Tech. All of the Cody Campbell discussion and all of the stories written about him and all of the stories mentioning him. And he is not just a booster, though, for Texas Tech. I mean, he's on the board of regents, and he's a big part of them. And
former player.
Yeah, he's a former player. So, I mean, I totally understand the connection. I just have, and I'm on the record, as you mentioned, like 4 years ago, saying when it comes to college football, I just don't really want to focus and make this about the non-coaches and non-players. And three-fifths of this cover is non-coaches and non-players, or actually two-fifths, because Blanchard's technically a coach. But yeah, it's a cool cover. I don't know about like the administration shot. It's not my favorite. I would rather have just seen Ben Roberts on there by himself, or him and Austin Romaine and the running backs or something like that. That would just be more my flavor, but I'm sure that will sell a lot of copies. I'll have a copy myself at some point. I'll read the story. I'm sure it'll be great. And a lot of cool things happening for Texas Tech football right now, including a lot of magazine covers and just a lot of attention.
All right, so now let's break here. We were going to have Ian Fitzsimmons, ESPN, but it looks like we're going to push that back. So we're going to come back with baseball scores from today. The College World Series, of course, in Omaha eventually is around the corner. Some teams have booked a ticket to super regionals where they'll host. We'll have that list too. Update some games, and yet another shocker earlier today. And then tonight, the College World Series, and it looks like Texas, the defending champions, will get that chance to do it again as they've come off the mat like they do so often in many sports. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Somebody a minute ago said that they needed to get off the mat, and maybe that's for you physically. 35, 40, 45, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and that could include as simple as your energy. Yeah, there's going to be days you don't sleep as well, you don't feel great, you maybe even didn't really have a great day of what you have when your food intake, or you're just worn out also, and you don't feel well. But low T can create that same issue, can create you just are sluggish and lethargic, and your low T, as it drops, your T levels drop. That can be what creates that problem. Contact Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Tell them I sent you. They'll set you up to get a blood work, and he'll take care of that appointment for you. Dr. Petty gets the blood work. He'll look at your T level, and if it is too low, he gives you the option and can put you in a program where you can increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
At Allen Samuels Jeep in Waco, get a 2026 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $32,990. Or take $10,000 off a 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold
are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Extreme Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
All right, here we go. We're going to get to college baseball regionals, as some games are underway right now and some will be played into the evening. And then we'll know for sure who are the 16 teams in the college baseball super regional round. Some teams have already punched their ticket. All right, here is the schedule when it comes to the regionals that have not yet been finalized. In Morgantown, in West Virginia, it is West Virginia and Kentucky. The winner of that regional will move into the super regional round, and they will play one of the great and surprise stories of all in Cal Poly. More on that in a minute. Also today in Atlanta, and this game is going on right now between OU, who's come off the mat, and Oklahoma was up 3-0 earlier today, now down 4-3, bottom of the fifth to Georgia Tech. The winner of that will move on into the super regional. So that game is underway at this time. The Auburn regional is Auburn and Milwaukee, one of the great stories. This is like a 16 seed in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, like hitting a half-court shot. They have an under 500 record. At one point this year, they had like a horrible, like really atrocious record. And they're playing Auburn, the Tigers, to try to get to the super regional. In Gainesville, Florida, here's another nice story with Troy as they take on Florida. That game is going on. That starts at 5 o'clock tonight. There are the Tallahassee Regional. Now, this one here updated from earlier today. St. John's beat Florida State. Florida State hit a 2-run homer in the 8th. St. John's hung on to win the game 5-4. They are now into the super regional round, and they will play Alabama later in the week. And then tonight in College Station, USC, who brought out the bats last night against A&M. 8:30 is first pitch down at College Station. That's the last regional. The winner of that regional will play against North Carolina. UCLA, which lost in their home regional, did not lose a series this year at all. They were number one in the country from start to finish. They're the first team ever to be ranked number one overall and go wire to wire during the regular season. Did not lose a series to anybody. And they're not even going to get past their own regional. That has been the weekend of college baseball.
Oh, is that all?
No.
Yeah, that was all a lot of fun to rehash. I don't know where to begin trying to unpack it because that's a lot of stuff other than West Virginia's ninth inning dramatics to stay alive over Kentucky was incredible scenes to watch. That was just super awesome. I really enjoyed the Kansas win on Saturday. Got to see almost the entirety of that game. That was a lot of fun. That was an incredible atmosphere there. And yeah, it's just really cool to see just the whole whittling down, the eliminations, the do or die scenarios and all that comes with college baseball. I'm not a big fan during the regular season. I just kind of keep tabs and don't get too in depth with it, but it's impossible to not get excited when you start to get into these scenarios. You get these home ballparks and you can see why you would want to have more college football playoff games at home stadiums when you see the atmospheres like you saw in Morgantown, like you saw in Lawrence, Kansas, like you saw in Starkville, Mississippi, and so on and so forth. It's just really effing cool. Some of these locations and these crowds and just these atmospheres. And I love it. I was watching tons of baseball, just kind of flipping around all weekend long, and cool to see the field taking further shape and seeing who's going to be able to find their way in these last few games. I mean, as you mentioned, Kentucky and West Virginia coming up here in a little less than 2 hours from now. Georgia Tech OU, a tight ball game, but St. John's, as you mentioned, win earlier over Florida State. FSU just never going to win a natty in baseball.
They have hosted the most regionals in college baseball history. Texas, the most appearances, but they have hosted more regionals than anybody else in the history of college baseball. They've had some members, like his name's Martin, was the head coach forever. They knocked on the door, got to Omaha. They've never won it. It's just been antagonizing, and they get beat at home by the 4 seed in St. John's today, when they had to win twice and they couldn't close out the first one.
Yeah, so just tough break there for the Noles, who just the streak will continue as far as waiting for that elusive national championship, and to have that happen at home. What a year for St. John's athletics. I mean, yeah. Or what a spring for St. John's athletics. Been pretty good for the Red Storm. That A&M atmosphere against USC, that ought to be just incredible in College Station later on tonight. I'll definitely be watching that. Florida Troy will be hot as well. That coming up at 5 o'clock. But yeah, Morgantown will be going bonkers. College Station will be going bonkers. Glad we have some more games today. Only bittersweet part is just as these elimination games happen, then you realize you've got less and less games. It's just fun to have a couple days where it's just nonstop all day long, seemingly from start of the day to the end of the day, college baseball, college softball, and then we're going to get to a point here where we got to wait again. But it was a really fun weekend. Really enjoyed watching a little bit of everything, and particularly that can't. I don't know why, but that one just, I think it was because the Kansas fans had waited so long for the ability to host and just like with all that built in to have a good performance and a dramatic win. Like it was just really cool. The West Virginia comeback was really, really cool. Just awesome. Love college baseball this time of year.
All right.
And softball.
By the way, here's a note before we get to the World Series, the Oklahoma City College World Series for softball. LSU won it all last year. Coastal Carolina, Louisville, Arkansas, UCLA, Oregon State, Murray State, Arizona State. None of them are alive. None of them are alive. LSU, Louisville, Murray State, and Arizona all missed the tournament. None of them are alive. Coastal and Arkansas, UCLA, and also Oregon State were eliminated in and during the first part of the tournament. And now to Oklahoma City. I'll tell you this. Everyone knows UT is not my favorite school by any means. A lot of it is probably not so much the college, the athletes or coaches, but they are good and they'll tell you they're good. And by the way, this is when they prove they're good. They are leading Tennessee in the second game today. They had to win the first game, and they did 5-2 against a team that beat them in the opening of the tournament. Now they lead. That game now in the second game is 4-0 Texas in the fifth. It's over. Craig, it's over. They're going to be in the championship series. They have the ability. You can say whatever you want about them. They are just amazing in so many sports and win And this is another example where people had them on the mat. No hitter yesterday in the 5th to Nebraska. And they end up scoring 3 runs and win the game 3-1 against the best player in softball. They're just absolutely, got to give them credit, a phenomenal program, and they're showing it again today.
Yeah, I mean, I know nothing's going to change at this point because we've been doing this for years, but I totally respect and know where you're coming from, but I just really wish you and Paul didn't feel the need to preface your dislike for UT before going on to compliment them. Like, it's the only school I feel like we do that for.
I don't like them a lot because they win so much.
But we don't need to always mention that necessarily. Like, I hate them, but you got to give we don't do that to anybody else. I get it. You're a Nebraska fan.
And again, it was Nebraska. I had Jennifer texted me yesterday. If there was in the 5th inning, I go, they're going to lose. They're going to lose. They're playing Texas. They'll find a way, in a heartbreaking way, to lose, and they did.
Of course, yeah. Like I just think that you guys can get past that. I believe in you both. I believe that you're capable and professional enough to be able to talk about them.
I want to blame it on my head
without
on my mental health.
Having to take a backward shot at them before giving them a compliment, because then it sounds like you're having to pull teeth. Texas is really good. They're the defending national champion. They got Mike White for a reason a few years back, and he's built them into exactly what Chris Del Conte envisioned. They are the school when it comes to hey, pick a school entering the NIL era that you think is going to have the most success for whatever, any number of reasons. And I would have said Texas, and I wouldn't have hesitated. Wouldn't have second guessed that. Wouldn't have said, well, A&M. No, I never would have done that. Well, no, I wouldn't have done that. Yeah, Texas. I mean, this is an era they're set to thrive in. And I think they had the perfect storm of not only having the right leadership in place at the right time, but then also the ability to maximize their strengths, their size, their money, their influence, all those different things. I mean, there's no program that should be better and win more in this era, in my opinion, than Texas. And I've been saying that for 3 years, and they've gone to prove that. I mean, winning the softball title last year, women's basketball's right there on the precipice of winning a title. Men's basketball with a deeper run than anybody expected. Football solid, so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, look, it's not that complicated. They're a really good team, maybe the best team in the country. And yeah, you don't like Texas, and you were hoping that maybe they were going to get buried this weekend. But to their credit, so long as they had one strike remaining, they were going to be hard to fend off and eliminate. And sure enough, here they are. They're still standing. If anything, it looks like they might be gaining strength right now and hitting the right stride with the right confidence and the right, you can't touch us ability at the perfect time. So great win for Texas. Great survival mode reaction by Texas to make it through a couple of different parts of the weekend where you thought, oh, damn, they're in a lot of trouble, but yet they end up on the other side and all the better for it. So, yeah, they've got a good thing going. They're a really, really solid program, and it's what Alabama's Tech is what we're going to get. And
Alabama is unbeaten, so Tech has to beat them twice to advance. Alabama just has to win either the first or the second game, and they move into the championship.
Right. So, yeah, so Texas looking like they're going to finish off Tennessee, and then we'll see Alabama and Texas Tech starting here in just a little while. Really looking forward to that. Tech had a huge weekend as well. Alabama Alabama, easy peasy got into the next round, it felt like, whereas we were kind of waiting on some drama to unfold with the Texas schools. But, yeah, Alabama Tech ought to be a lot of fun. Maybe we get a rematch, Texas and Texas Tech, given the recent conversations.
That not be just perfect?
Yeah. I mean, I would love for Cody Campbell and Steve Sarkisian to be seated next to each other in Oklahoma City, if at all possible. If we could arrange that somehow, ESPN executives, that would be great TV. But yeah, all the credit to Texas for surviving when it looked like, the defending champs might bow out on a couple of different occasions. They met the moment, and they advanced, and they're going to be really hard to beat, I think, at this point.
Yep. And so tonight, at the end of the night, it'll be most likely, obviously, Texas if they close out against Tennessee, against Alabama or Texas Tech into the championship round.
Here, late night for Tech fans. I mean, 8:30 start.
8:30. Like last night's game in College Station, the baseball game, USC put up a bunch of, they were hitting home runs left and right. I went to bed. They were up I don't know, 10-3 or 11-2 or whatever it was. And I went to bed, but I like watching it. And I finally said, this enough. I can't do it. And I'm not even a fan of either team. I just was watching it for being able to watch good baseball.
Just hope that first game, the 6 o'clock start, doesn't go extra innings and push back that 8:30 start time. And that should probably not still be too late, that second game. But having to wait a little while for the Tech Bama. So 6 for game 1, 8:30 for game 2, so long as there aren't extra innings. So it might be a late night, but you know what? If you win, as an Alabama fan or as a Texas Tech fan, the amount it cuts into your sleep will be well worth it, I'm sure, if you get to turn around and play for a softball national championship.
We'll have some other college football news and the Elite 11 quarterback competition over the weekend. We'll have that at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com. Rez, can you dial up the fear that I have living where I do in Waco, Texas, please? So Saturday evening, I am taking a Pelican case of about 8 cigars from the condo to my car. I walk up a stairwell, and I had a large flashlight that covers a lot of the ground because it's pretty dark where I live, towards the parking lot. And so that story in a minute. This is the snake skin as I'm throwing out snake away. Yesterday afternoon, I watered some of the yard around the neighbors to the right and left. So I was watering, and look at the size of this snake skin. If you can kind of see it, we measured it 4+ feet.
Oh, that's nothing then.
4+ feet. That is, like, I want you to tell you, like, Rez, do you see where you are right now compared to where we are in the control room and set? That's how close this was to my front door at where I live in the condo. Now, we've seen one of those just above my stairwell. I have seen 2 or 3 snakes on the walkway that goes into my condo that's kind of got a long 20-foot walk after you turn the corner. That was yesterday. Now, this was after what I confronted on Saturday evening, late evening, as I take something to my car because I'm going to play golf on Sunday morning. And guess what I found? As I'm walking towards the top of the stairwell, it's about 6 or 8 steps down towards the area that goes to my condo. It's a freaking tarantula. I had nothing in my hands except the flashlight. I could see movement. I had seen this hole that's about the size of a garden hose that's kind of in the corner where there's dirt and a couple of like smaller mini hibiscus plants. And I saw this coming at me, and I took my golf hat off and slammed it on top after this guy was chasing me, slammed it on top of him. Unfortunately, I killed him.
With a hat?
With my hat. Now, go back to that original. Does that not look, that's the size of about my hand. They curled up. There's the claws, the legs, or whatever. There's the part in the middle where they can like kill you with some sort of a laser beam. Yeah. A tarantula.
Everybody knows about those tarantulas.
A tarantula. Beams, yeah. There's also a second picture of part of its body off to the side. It's the second time that I've confronted a tarantula near the top of my stairwell. Did it like 4 or 5 years ago. And I don't know if I should burn the damn place down. I don't own it, so maybe I can't. But it is amazing what hangs out in the vicinity of where I live.
I mean, those tarantulas with laser beams, like Dr. Evil, Austin Powers, the sharks with laser beams. Maybe he's responsible for the spiders you're speaking of. But I mean, you're the kind of neighbor, though, that people who've lived in complexes, like you've got like 1,000 plants that you've created around your apartment. You've got like a whole jungle that you've created. So then you're surprised when you turn around and there's snakes and spiders who are enjoying your playground you set up for them, and all the comfy accoutrements that you've created for them. And plus, you also already live next to woods, so you're kind of gonna always come across some things. But the snake I can deal with. Like the only thing obviously is being scared of the poison, because I just don't want like my flesh to rot away or die. So I would be worried about the bite. I'm not scared of like snakes. Just like if there was like a garden snake, I'd pick one up and not have a problem with it. I'm not scared of it.
You're not related to me.
No, I'm not. I'm not scared of snakes that aren't poisonous.
But when it's a big snake like that most likely is a rat snake.
Okay. It's not going to do anything.
I know, but they look like rattle moccasins. I'm telling you right now. You know how much I'm petrified of them. I've gotten better with them on the golf course. Like I'm intrigued by them, But I just wanted to share part of my life story of where I was.
I get
mentally.
I get all that. I mean, you set up the environment for them to thrive as much as anything else. Plus, already living next to the woods, so you're kind of a double whammy there.
And that
but
big
my point is,
behind
the snakes I wouldn't be happy about it. I would be on the lookout for them. I would definitely be a little bit worried if they in fact were poisonous. But if not poisonous, then I don't know. Is there some snake away or something you can do?
No, that's the thing. I had a couple of bags of the snake away, and I put gloves on because it kind of smells like retired stockbroker goes, throw some mothballs out there. That helps too. So I threw it all around the ground. After seeing that, I was going to do it yesterday afternoon, and then I saw that as I was heading back from golf. So yes, snake away is on the ground now.
Well, okay, well that should help. But I wouldn't be so much bothered by the snakes if they weren't poisonous and I could shoo them away. But I would not be able to handle coming across a tarantula. I just absolutely would not be able to function, and I would burn my place down and move out immediately. And that's like the second or third time you've seen an actual like real life
that's a tarantula,
big ass tarantula. I could not do it. I would be so skeeved out by that. I would have to move. So yeah, I not a fan of those things. The snakes, that's a different matter, but tarantulas, I just no, makes my skin crawl.
I'm going to send pictures to the chat room of my garden that is a tropical garden, mainly hibiscus, elephant ears, and what are they also called? Caladiums. I'll send that to you here in the chat in just a second. All right. Yeah, the tarantula. And it did come at me. It absolutely, because he saw the flashlight, so it came at me, and thank goodness I reacted the way I did. Because here's the worst part. What if I wouldn't have killed him?
Then he would have just gone about his business. Yeah. He's not going to come attack you like a predator. He's not like a hungry jaguar that needs some meat. He's just a tarantula, probably minding his own business, but doesn't make him any less gross or weird. So yeah, I think you're probably okay ultimately, but still doesn't change the fact that they're creepy as hell. I cannot do the spiders thing. I cannot do that.
No, that was something else. And so a tarantula's dead. The snake is skinned. It means he's thriving. All right, when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, the Elite 11 college football is high school football quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks for the upcoming high school season. That competition went on. And also, Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com, will join us at 4:25. And then we also found out today who's on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. And I've got a list of a few names that you'll recognize. We'll do that and more. This is 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. What they've been able to help me do is live my life pretty normally. When it came for a long time, for 4.5 years, I couldn't jog. I couldn't even attempt to take 2 or 3 steps. It hurt. I had a tugging feeling in my right hip. That's gone. Ran 2 miles today. Played golf both Saturday and Sunday morning. I don't wake up with that, whatever soreness I may have, it's because I pushed myself a little bit, but not because of the pain that I felt that literally got to the point where steroid injections did nothing. Kicked the can down the road, if that. And there was discussion. Well, what about maybe a procedure on your lower back? Nope. I went to see QC Kinetics, free consultation. And the folks in Dallas, fantastic, kind of told me a little bit about exactly what they do, made sense to me. And I said, I'm going to think about it. And I'm on my way back to Waco, and then I get a call from them. They wanted to talk to me yet again. Here's what they do. 1, joint pain, hip, knee, shoulders, torn ligaments and cartilage issues, tendinitis, bursitis, sports injuries, carpal tunnel syndrome. If you have any of those issues, QC Kinetics can help you with non-surgical approach, natural healing, or taking your blood out of you, spinning it, putting it back in your body so you will, again, have platelets with your blood and plasma, stem cells, and bone marrow that can also help you yourself heal you. It works. It's worked for me since the first treatment back in September. Had 4 treatments, have not had one in, I think, 3 or 4 months. And in fact, I have one in my back pocket if I want to use it, maybe for a tune-up. I want to help you. You get out of bed and you got pain in your shoulder, your elbows, your neck, wherever it is, or my hip, gone. It has helped me out. QC Kinetics here are the numbers. Dallas and Houston, 972-972-8610. 972-972-8610. In Houston, 713-913-5285. Utilize natural substances in your own body. Spin it. Put it back in your body to make you and help you feel better and get through the pain at QC Kinetics in Dallas and Houston, QCkinetics.com.
In the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Spring is here, and so are the savings during Richard Card's Spring into Savings sales event.
Buick Enclave, Envision, and Encore deliver premium quality and unbeatable value. Right now, non-GM owners can save $5,250 on all 2026 Buick Envisions in stock, or save $6,750 on all 2026 3-row Enclaves in stock.
Spring into action and save. Get your next ride at the Spring into Savings event at Richard Car.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
Over the weekend, and this has been going on for quite some time, the Elite 11 quarterback competition, which is normally all of the highest rated quarterbacks in the country. They go out, they do all sorts of drills, and there was a surprise winner. And it was Trey Taylor, who's committed to Nebraska, believe it or not, who has been kind of not under the radar, but he's been, you can see with what he's done to try to help them cultivate more than just a decent college football recruiting class for 26. He won it. He won the competition. You have other quarterbacks from other schools. You can see the logos on the right-hand side. But that is where, and Kavion Bryant, number 10, by the way, is Kavion Bryant down at the bottom. Yeah, he's not in that particular list. He was a part of it. He is from Westwood High School in Palestine and committed to play at Texas Tech.
Well, cool for Trey Taylor. I guess you brought this up because he's a Nebraska guy.
Actually, I had it on my schedule and then confirmed I was going to use it. You're damn right I did. Yeah.
Well, you know what this tells me is Man, I have never cared less about these sort of things than I do right at this very moment. I think it's a cool event. I think I'm not trying to take away at all from anybody on this list or the organizers or anything like that. It is directly a product of the transfer portal and college football recruiting, where this means, like, not that it doesn't mean anything for the guys involved or for the fans of the fan bases of the guys who are committed there, but man, the portal has just so overtaken everything that stuff like this just used to feel like such a much bigger deal than it does now. Like, it was one of those things, like, we would have like led with this.
We would have probably had somebody who was out there as a counselor.
Right. We'd had somebody on, and now it's like, why? Like, why interview anybody to talk about a bunch of dudes who may not even end up at the school they're committed to? And even if they do, if they don't play right away, they'll probably transfer by year 2 and so on and so forth. I'm glad they're still getting coverage, certainly deserving of that. But yeah, all this immediately jumps out to me as is, wow, I do not care about this nearly the way that I used to when I would be like beat reporting and talking about, whoever you want to discuss. TCU's quarterback's going to the Elite 11. Oh, my God, that's incredible. Oh, wow, he's in the finals with so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And I would be like locked in watching it on TV and stuff, everything. And now it's like, oh, yeah, the Elite 11s. Does anybody else feel that way? Like about the hit to high school recruiting in general, because that's where it's kind of expanded to now where Elite 11, like if I was a Nebraska fan, I'm going to absolutely celebrate this, and rightfully so. But yeah, just as an impartial observer, it's crazy how much that's changed in the last few years.
Abrams is going, I agree with you. But I was going to show this. I jotted down Sorsby's hearings today and a couple of other things, College World Series and softball, baseball, whatever. But I was going to drop this dead. I had no idea who was going to win it. Abrams is going to LSU. Peyton Houston going to LSU. Abrams is going to Miami. Bork is on the list going to Virginia Tech. David Davidson is on the list going to, I don't see which one that is. I can't see it on my screen well. Also, Mensel's going to, of course, Oregon. And then you have Seaborn, Hughley, and then Haven and Edmonds. Edmonds is also on that list as well. The top 11 final rankings, the Elite 11, and they had best thrower, best this and that, but there we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see it laid out. I think, the graphic is a little bit difficult to see on the right side, and that's not even the size of it. I just think in general that was maybe could have had a better choice on that. Not that I'm an expert.
It's clear as a bell right here in front of me.
It's just you have it in front of you, so I'm trying to squeeze through. It doesn't matter.
All that matters is that it's over, and the number one guy is a Matt Rule commit.
Yeah, I guess that's all that matters for Nebraska fans. It's cool to see that. Thanks, Rez, for blowing it up. It's still kind of difficult. It doesn't matter though. So Kavion Bryant, still excited about him, even though he didn't finish in the top 11. I know Texas Tech's very high on him, but yeah, a lot of the big school arms that you would expect. That's great for Virginia Tech to have Peter Bork there in the top 5, kind of break up the usual suspects. And obviously Trey Taylor's a bit of a breaking up of the usual suspects, although having Raiola, you've had an Elite 11 big time arm here recently. So that's not brand new for Nebraska, but Va-Tech kind of being in the discussion is cool to see that. But yeah, Oregon, Clemson, Ole Miss, LSU, I would anticipate seeing those schools almost every single year in something like this. Alabama there with Elijah Haven, if I'm reading that right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's cool. Like it's just, and get it. It probably sounds like negative. It's not at all.
It is.
It's crazy
You're
how
being
much
really negative. You're being a hater.
It's just crazy how much this is just a thing that's in the background as opposed to what it was like 5 years ago.
It was 5 years ago. I forgot his last name, George something, that used to be a quarterback guru. He was a guy that players.
George Reitster or whatever.
No, that's who we're having on tomorrow. Reitster on Wednesday. We had him on every 2 or 3 years in a row. He was at the camp. He was a quarterback whisperer, so to speak.
George Whitfield Jr.
George Whitfield Jr. Yeah. That's who it
he
is.
was like the bee's knees for a couple of years as far as quarterback coaching, and then I don't know what happened after that. But
all right, so there we are, the Elite 11. Just to let you know, the rankings are out, and those were the players and the connections to teams that they're committed to.
That's crazy. Like I would love to know from the websites out there, and maybe that's why some of them are covering more like trying to be like entertainment mags in some ways, and promote the NIL and like the Instagram pages, like we're covering celebrities and stuff now, because the old high school coverage, I would just love to see a table chart where you show me like how the interest level has stayed the same, risen, fallen, whatever, when it comes to covering and taking in high school football, because I don't know. I see I think for some teams, it's probably always awesome. Like if you're a Texas fan, you're always going to be getting 5 stars, and you figure you're probably going to be able to pay them and they're going to stick around. So that's different. But if you're some other schools, you're like, you get a 4-star and you're like, well, he better play right away, because if he doesn't, then he's going to bounce to Texas after this year, right? Or like, you don't know how excited you can get because it's so fleeting, these player movements. So I would be curious, because I know my interest is certainly taking a hit, because I feel like I just don't need to know these guys as well, because they're not going to be around for very long. And by the time that they are going to matter, like, okay, well, they'll have been around for a couple of years. Like, of course, there's always going to be true freshmen that break through and break the mold and whatnot.
Sure.
But it's just so different than it was. And
this used to be you're locked in for 4 to 5 years, like you said, with these guys.
Yeah, like those guys are all going to play at those schools. And I mean, we look at like the NFL draft, the quarterbacks, how many of those guys have transferred? Most of them. You look at the Heisman Trophy finalists, like how many of those people transferred? Some of them, if not most of them. It's a different world. So it's not even saying it from a negative, although you can take it that way. I think certainly some people who have the same sentiment view that negatively. I just view it as it's just kind of wild to realize how different that is, and kind of think about it, because it's been an afterthought for me, at least, as far as that part of the building of a program. I'm way more focused on the portal, who they get in the portal, who they got coming back on the roster. And then the freshmen, yeah, sure, if you go out and you get Arch Manning, that's one thing. That's a totally different ball game. Or a 5-star wide receiver, yeah, you expect something from Micah Hudson or whatever. But for all just the usual, like the 3s, the 4s even, you're just kind of like, we'll see. You know what I mean? Like, we'll see when the time comes. You're just not nearly as locked in on those high school guys. And so that's why I would be curious to kind of see the interest levels and website traffic for just pure high school recruiting interest.
If you're a Duke, okay, you're a University of Miami message board, or you cover Miami football, you're going to want to be all a part of this, even though you have Mensa, because there's a quarterback. You're going to love it when your guys are a part of it. And if you're not, you're going to go, our guy wasn't there, or they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you got a reason to pay attention, of course you're going to be more paying attention to it. Like, I mean, yeah, if Miami's got a guy good enough to get to the Elite 11, then yeah, Miami fans are going to care about that. But as far as if you have no dog in the fight, and even I think probably some guys whose quarterback is at Elite 11, you're like, all right, well, we'll see if he even plays for us when the time comes. That's kind of how different it is now. So still a cool event, just has taken a bit of a step down, certainly in I think the importance factor each offseason, because now instead of relying on the 5-star quarterback that you got who won Elite 11 2 years ago, you're recruiting over him because you went and got Miami's quarterback in the transfer portal. So we'll see if this guy actually ends up playing here or not. But that's just a major difference that I don't really sit and think about very often. But when you throw a graphic up, I'm like, oh, hell. Yeah, the Elite 11. God, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, great. Good job, Trey Taylor.
All right, I'm going to throw out some names. Ralph Rousseau, Around the Corner, athletic.com. Here are some names I wrote down. There's dozens. And I'm fortunate to be a voter for the National Football Foundation for the College Football Hall of Fame. We now know that Mike Leach, of course, is going to be on the Hall of Fame ballot. They announced that on Friday. Today, the official ballot came out. Cam Newton. You would think that is an absolute no-brainer. Now, there are dozens and dozens of names, and I can't remember if I'm allowed to pick like 15 or 12 or 20, but there are always going to be some names you're like, yeah, how do I leave him off? And then there's also some names from back in the past. For example, I saw Bruce Matthews, former USC great, Hall of Fame offensive lineman in the NFL. Now, again, this is what they did in college, but Bruce Matthews at USC was a part of that run that USC would always have a number 1 pick or so in the NFL draft. Here are some of the names. Tavon Austin, West Virginia.
He was freaking great. He was awesome. Yeah, he was really, really fun to watch.
Kellen Moore, who I believe eventually had his record broken. He broke what the Colt McCoy record for the most wins in a collegiate career at Boise State. I don't know why he wouldn't be a part of it, but again, you're not going to induct 30. There's a nice chunk, but here are some of the Colt McCoy, by the way, is also on this list. Melvin Gordon, running back, Wisconsin. Chris Carter, wide receiver, Ohio State, is not in the College Football Hall of Fame. He was better in the pros, good at Ohio State, but sometimes these things are what you did at the level we're talking about, not what you did after and what you were as a pro, or high school Hall of Fame, what you did in college or the NFL, what you did in high school.
Well, he also missed his entire end of his career, right? He was suspended, so that I think probably worked against him.
Probably keeps him out.
Yeah.
Terrell Suggs, Arizona State. There's a Big 12 program, long time, of course, in other places too. He is not in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's on the ballot. Tony Gonzalez at Cal, great player, great college player, great NFL player, tight end at Cal. Rocky Kalmus, Craig, at Oklahoma, linebacker, didn't do much at all after he left college. Hell of a player. He and Teddy Lehman, great players in college at Oklahoma.
Yeah, he was a stud, and they had a great run of linebackers there in the early 2000s. And yeah, Teddy Lehman was incredible as well. But Rocky Kalmus, I mean, I'd have to. I can't just sit here and go, oh, well, that's. I can't believe they don't have him in. I would need to see kind of what the bar is and look at stats and things like that, because some of these names are like, yeah, of course they deserve to be in, and then some of them are just, you remember being really good players, but are they Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame? Because there's hundreds of great players every year, right? Thousands over the course of a decade. So it's a long line to get in, but you got to have a certain level to meet. So, yeah, I'd be curious to see like him stacked up, but he was an awesome player. I don't know if he's deserving of the College Football Hall, though, based on what I just said there of like how it compares to other inductees and whether it meets the same type of bar. But you're definitely naming some. I mean, Cam Newton, that's a freaking no-brainer. Like, yeah, absolutely. The Chris Carter thing, I think, yeah, some of these guys you can't think about what they did as pros. So you hear Chris Carter, and I think immediately, I'd wonder how many people watched him in college now at this point, right? Like, I think most people probably do know him as the Vikings receiver and the ESPN analyst more than for Ohio State, but awesome player. Yeah, I just don't know if he's College Football Hall of Fame worthy, but it's definitely some names.
I'm going to go through about 7 or 8 more names just for you, our audience, you to also kind of chew on, and then I will vote at some point. And there's also the Division II and all that level, NAIA and coaches too. Simeon Rice, Illinois, linebacker, turned out to be a heck of a defensive lineman in the NFL / linebacker. Simeon Rice was a baller at Illinois. Percy Harvin, fantastic receiver during some great teams at Florida as a returner and also a wide receiver.
Well, that's one of those where I hear his name and I'm immediately like, yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame. But that's what I was just saying a second ago was I would need to, like, if he's not, like, I would need to go look at the stats and be like, all right, what did he not do? Because off the top of my head, I don't know what the argument would be against Percy Harvin. I just don't know his career well enough, like the back of my hand, to go, oh, well, you remember his sophomore year, that kind of a deal. So that's kind of like the problem I run into with just going like, yeah, he deserves it or he doesn't. Because all the guys' names you said so far, I'm like, oh, yeah, they should be in. And I know there's some reasons that's why Chris Carter, 3 decades removed from his playing career, if not 4 at this point, is not in the College Football Hall of Fame still,
Harvin
right?
had 2 really good years at Florida. Of course, stats changed, but one year had 83 catches, 700 and some yards, had 19 touchdowns. Not like overwhelming, because there's some guys at other schools that put up even bigger numbers, but he also was an incredible threat.
19 touchdowns. So other guys put up big numbers, but not 19 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns.
Yep. I take that back. 19 rushing touchdowns and 13 receiving touchdowns.
Even more so.
And then also some punt returns and more along the way.
He was freaking great. Yeah, I don't know what the argument would be.
And he was a part of that 6, 7, and 8 Florida run with Urban Meyer and stuff.
Right. So like there's reasons why some of these guys are in, and I would just have to get more into their history to fully understand the weight for some of these guys. Other than there's also a logjam because you've had so many players to put into the Hall over the years. But yeah, Percy Harvin was freaking awesome.
All right. Aqib Talib, defensive back in Kansas, was all at the time he played, I believe it'd be all Big 12, phenomenal player, pretty good player in the pros, had some issues, but Aqib Talib, Casey Hampton, defensive lineman at Texas, just what they have in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen those linemen they have on the defensive side, they have like 5 Casey Hamptons, but I'm not saying that because there's only really one Casey Hampton, but just a tremendous player for UT. He's not going to have a lot of stats. Jonathan Vilma, linebacker, Miami during the early 2000s of the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to know how many college football Hall of Famers they end up with off of those, like that 01 team or just the early 2000s time period in general. Be in the double digits, you would think. But, yeah, a lot of just studs that you're naming. Aqib Talib was a great two-way player. When he did dabble on offense, was very effective, had a bunch of picks, was really good. But, like, is he college football Hall of – like, that's what I'm saying. You know, it's a hard bar to kind of know off the top of my head. Which is what I keep going back to. But is there a limit, you said, on the number of votes?
I got to go back and look at it.
Because
you're not going to be able to vote for like 30.
Because that's what I'm saying. Without studying it, just going, I'm like, I've already inducted 12 guys that you've named. And so I know it can't work that way because I'm sure there's a voter or two that probably are like-minded to me. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a star-studded class, whatever they whittle it down to. Ultimately, already. It's going to be a hell of a class.
Josh Heupel, who led them to the national title in 2000.
That's first ballot, no doubt, unanimous.
Yep.
No, I mean, the only knock would be his career was just very brief, right? I mean, it was kind of a out of nowhere national championship for Oklahoma in 2000. But the last guy to give him one, he's turned into a pretty damn good coach as well, and. Yeah, it was really effective and huge piece of that 2000 national title team. But is that college football Hall of Fame worthy? I don't think it is, but I don't know.
Antoine Randall L. was another name. He was at Indiana, phenomenal player, kind of like one of those multi-players. But those are some of the names in the ballot. And I will go home at some point this week before I take off a little bit of time on Thursday and Friday and vote and get that in for the College Football Hall of Fame. We break right here. We come back with Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com. Just after 5, Jarrett Ramirez from Red Raider Sports, who was in the courtroom today at that hearing with Brendan Sorsby and the NCAA. That and more. We appreciate your time. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco, where they do images of what hurts you. Your doctor has been visiting with you, looking at you, trying to get whatever diagnosis they can come up with because of what hurts you, whether it's your knee, whether it's your back, your shoulders. I've talked about what QC Kinetics can help you do, but before that, your doctor needs to figure out what's going on with you. And oh, by the way, if you do go to QC Kinetics, you're going to want an MRI or anyone else that you go to for possibly surgery if it's just something you can't keep pushing it off. Ideal MRI has a state-of-the-art imaging machine, $497 or less every single time since they opened their doors back around 10 years ago. IdealMRI.com.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David Smoke and Craig Smoke.
Here we go, 365 Sports, the SMOAK Show. Craig Smoke, David Smoke, and Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com, joins us on the show today. And Ralph, thank you very much for your time. I'm not so sure how much you may have kept up with the Cliff Notes or whatever with the hearing with Brendan Sorsby in Lubbock. We went over a lot of a little bit of it, the chunk of what really mattered in a way. Your thoughts on it too? Oh, I thought we had him. He just said he was on. Here we go. I got him. There we go. Now we have him. Okay. Here we go. Ralph Rousseau, athletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Ralph, how much did you pay attention to the notes that were coming out of Lubbock with the hearing in Brendan Sorsby today?
Not a ton. Just enough to, sort of keep up on what's going on, knowing that it's going to probably be decided in the next couple of days. I say not a ton because, frankly, I don't know what kind of legal argument this guy has other than I'm Texas Tech's quarterback and you're a Lubbock judge, so you should be, rooting for me to be eligible. I think, one of the things I noticed was they compared his case to an Indiana volleyball coach who bet on a bunch of events that Indiana sports were involved in, and noted that coach only had a 30% of the season suspension, which is interesting, but it also left out the fact that coach didn't bet on his own games, like Brendan Sorsby did numerous times. So I'm definitely interested. Like, nothing would shock me that at this point in terms of what comes out of these court cases and whether he gets this injunction. But it really does feel like a Hail Mary here. And again, I can't really see a legal justification for the NCAA having this rule, which it applies consistently, then being said, no, it's illegal for you to apply that rule consistently now.
Ralph, what happens if somehow this Hail Mary works?
Yeah, I would imagine what you'd end up having is there are at least a few, if not many, recent college basketball players who have been deemed permanently ineligible because of their activity involving bets on themselves, bets on their own games, providing information to gamblers to bet on games. Now, in those cases, there's a distinguishing characteristic there. In some of those cases, players were involved in the games and trying to manipulate the results. And this is another place where Kessler and Sorsby's lawyers are trying to draw a distinction. Brendan never was involved in the game. He was never trying to manipulate the results. Now, again, that's true, but there are also other cases in which when you bet on your own school, on games involving your own team, that is a bright red line. So yes, he didn't do that. He didn't manipulate the results because he didn't play in those games. That isn't the thing that triggers a permanent suspension or the loss of a year in this case. I guess in some cases, like he wouldn't necessarily be permanently banned, but he's out of eligibility, right? This is his last year, and I'm sure he wants to get on with the NFL, frankly, if he can't come back to school. So I would imagine there are going to be some people, if he gets this, who are going to look at their situation where maybe they lost a year or they were kicked out, who might find themselves saying, maybe I should go to court now because that guy got it, that guy was able to play. Why wasn't I able to play? So I can't necessarily give you definitive examples of those cases, but I know that's been where the line has been drawn. And I would imagine if I was in that position and Brendan Sorsby was allowed to play, well, why can't I play?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Whether it was the guys that were at Iowa State, Iowa, recently or not. So the argument that you could take away his football career doesn't hold any water whatsoever because he can play the NFL. So if he can't play in college, at least he can play in the NFL, whether he's good enough. There were thoughts that he was projected to be an NFL quarterback. So the only thing, what do you think is the mental health angle, Ralph, really the one they're leaning on to maybe just tug at somebody's heart?
So that's what I suspect, because it does fall in line with some of the things. And it sort of falls under this student athlete well-being, which is something that we came up with Trinidad Chambliss, and he got his, right? Because it was sort of like, well, he was sick. Now, again, very different situation because Trinidad did not break any rules, right? He was just out of eligibility through the normal eligibility process. But there's some vagary around red shirts, retroactive red shirting. And I think the judge could sort of bend some things to say, hey, the NCAA's responsibility is towards the athlete's well-being and not retroactively giving him this red shirt, medical red shirt is sort of against the NCAA's mission, right? And I think to a certain degree, this case does seem to sort of poke at that. Like the NCAA's mission is to be work with toward the benefit of the student athletes. And this athlete has a mental health condition. Shouldn't you be working with him because he's doing the best he can to deal with this issue? So yes, I guess there's hints of that. But Chandler Morris, a court denied. He asked for an injunction under similar circumstances. Hey, I was dealing with a mental health condition. He didn't get it. So again, like I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. somebody who's smarter than me could put together a better legal description of why this argument might hold water. But from the court of common sense, which I hope to think I can be a juror of, I don't see how this makes any sense.
Ralph, is there any way we can get Steve Sarkisian to pop off and say something about this, just to really throw some more gasoline into the tech fire?
It would be wild if he does get this injunction and can play. There will be some I don't know if it'll be Sark. Maybe Sark has decided I got to stand down on this, but I can only imagine what is being said behind closed doors if this happens, and what might come out at, let's say, Big 12 media days or SEC media days and things like that. I find myself thinking he doesn't have much shot here. In fact, I think the idea that the original judge recused himself, and this is purely theoretical on my part, because the judge had a degree from Texas Tech, I think a couple of them. And where my mind went was that judge, a Red Raider at heart, does not want to rule against the Red Raiders.
Oh, yeah. No, totally agree. I think he took himself out of the situation, which was the honorable thing to do.
Without question.
Yeah.
But maybe the legally correct thing to do as well.
Absolutely.
Just to be fair.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think he made the right choice, just pulling himself out of the matter and be like, other people can handle this here. So SEC Media Days had a lot of spicy quotes and just kind of a lot of discussion in general. I mean, I guess most of the focus was just kind of on the Sark Tech thing, but they're still unraveling, Lane Kiffin and all this. What do you think's kind of the story of the SEC heading into this season?
Yeah, the story of the SEC is it can't make up its mind about things, and it's thinking of some pretty drastic solutions. Okay, let's take the couple of main things. The SEC breakaway idea.
Yes.
This idea that they're going to make their own rules, because if they make their own rules, those rules would hold up in court, and they can sort of play by themselves, right? Take their ball and go home. Some people have talked about it. It's not as crazy as it sounds. I also think, and I've had people in the SEC, people who are really open-minded to this idea will say, listen, we understand that this is a pretty risky thing. Like, we can say we have a lot of fans and we would still have big TV ratings and we would still get big TV deals. But man, if we become just a regional thing that doesn't interact with any of the rest and we can't necessarily proclaim ourselves national champions, what does that look like? Do people in Seattle, we have a pretty good viewership in Seattle. Does that stay? Does that keep up if we're no longer playing, if we're only playing regionally? There's also a part of this, which is like, if we do it, the other conferences will do it, and then maybe we'll come together at the end of the year in sort of a Premier League, or not Premier League, like a Champions League, European soccer kind of way. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. I don't know if it would ever come to fruition, but I do think they're seriously talking about it. And the other part of it, of course, is like, guys, no matter how many teams the SEC gets in the playoff, they still think they need more teams in the playoff. And we were all got a kind of a kick to a certain degree, but it's very real of them being a little upset about the fact that they didn't get more teams in last year, pointing the finger at the Big 12 teams and saying, why are they ranked ahead of our teams? And with an eye towards, hey, if this thing goes to 24, if we don't get the right sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? If they don't pay enough attention and pay enough deference to our strength of schedule in the current format, and we go to a bigger format, we're going to get even more mistreated in their eyes, right? Yeah. I don't want to say the other word I was going to use because it's a family show.
I cracked up when I heard Danny White go, it allows us to have more access, as if they don't already have a chunk of it.
Well, and the thing about, I know what Sark was saying, but then he had to kind of throw that Texas, and he didn't even say Texas Tech, of course, but it's like, dude, they got one team in the playoff. I understand the argument of you don't think the Big 12's on your level, but let's not act like they're getting some huge benefit of the doubt. They got one team in the playoff the last couple of years. BYU's on the outside, banging on the door of let us in this thing. So I don't know. I totally get the more access, but it's weird how the Big 12's kind of now become this target because they might get a second team in a 24 team. I don't know. That's part that really just kind of puts me off in a way as a college football fan. This I don't know how to describe it. This punching down or this
arrogance. Is arrogance the word?
Arrogance. Yes. Thank you. This arrogance that they can't possibly have a team that can compete with us because Mississippi State beat Arizona State last year. It's maddening.
Yeah, I think what I've learned about covering the playoff stuff, the machinations of it behind the scenes, is there are things that set off the coaches and the conferences and ADs that we don't process. Like, I really didn't realize until last week that, BYU being ahead of Vanderbilt and Texas, that really ticked off people in the SEC. Like, because you're right. Like, well, what's the difference? None of you made it, right? Like, you're all runners up. You're all just left out. So why is that a big deal? But no, they feel that it is a big deal. The simple fact that BYU was ahead of those two teams is a big deal. I understand Texas Tech got in and they were going to get in anyway because of the format as Big 12 champion. But the fact that they got a number 4 seed ticked people off. So again, the main thing I've learned about covering this stuff is there are things that really do stick in people's craws that maybe we don't realize. Like the minutia is a little more important, and maybe it's not minutia, but the minutia is a little more important than we realize when it comes to the playoff rankings.
Ralph, the College Football Foundation released the ballot. We knew Mike Leach was going to be on it. You have a vote. I'm fortunate enough to get the ballot too. Man, there's a lot of really good players, and we got to vote for up to 12, which is a lot. But your thoughts about Leach, now it's official. We knew that Friday, but now you see his name on the ballot.
Okay, just to be very clear, I am not a part of the selection process.
Oh, okay.
Just to be very clear.
No. You have a vote for, do you have the vote?
No. I have a regional vote that sort of crafts the ballot. So yes, in terms of that's the case, but that's more of a regional level ballot. So listen, it's funny. I'm writing a column right now. It'll publish later, probably tomorrow morning. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I think Mike Lee should be in. But I also will say, I don't think he is not a slam dunk candidate just in terms of wins and losses and the simple fact that he's under 600. And if you look at he never won a conference title. I think he shared one technically in the Big 12 era, but never outright won a conference title. His record in rivalry games is not particularly good. 1-7 in the Apple Cup, 2-7 against Texas, if you want to take that as Texas Tech's rival. So I think there's a case to be made to say, listen, he is not a slam dunk candidate. I could see people arguing against him. Where I really think it comes down to is sort of this evolutionary aspect of him of being a pioneer with the air raid. It's not just that he also, listen, his records for the teams that he coached for, comparatively to what those schools usually do, what Texas Tech has historically accomplished until last year, what Washington State has historically accomplished. He has always outkicked his coverage, to use a term, right? The programs that he has coached have always done better with him than before and after him. And I think that's the best argument. And the fact that he is the architect and mastermind behind the air raid. And frankly, this is the best argument that changed football. Not just I'll steal this from my podcast host, co-host, Bruce Feldman. He didn't just change college football. It changed all of football.
Yeah.
That offense bled into every aspect of football. It led the offensive revolution, which is what we've had for the first 20 years of the 2000s. Where offenses just went bonkers. He was part of that, and he was an integral part of that. And in my view, that's what makes him a Hall of Famer.
Ralph, we appreciate your time. I know you got something else to get to as well. Have a great rest of your week. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Always appreciate you.
Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, and I didn't want to not correct him, but I always like how he kind of remembered, I think he won a partial share. No, it was the South title. That was a 3-way tie in 2008. So I can see where it's confusing to remember. Like, did Tech win a partial Big 12? No, it was the South Division when you still had divisions, and it was Texas, Oklahoma, and Tech.
They were all like top 5 that year. You're right.
And then and that was when you could round robin each other, because that's when college football made sense before the last round of realignment. And so, I mean, we just talked about this like a week ago, because we were talking about, I guess we were talking with Mac Brown or whatever it was that brought this back up. But yeah, I mean, Texas Tech had the incredible all-timer win over Texas. Michael Crabtree from Graham Harrell at the end of the game. Incredible just play that you watch it back and you're, as a Texas fan, you probably can't, because you're like, why did you not push him out of bounds? Anyways, you had that moment, and didn't Blake Gideon nearly pick off a pass like right before that?
Right through his breadbasket.
Yeah, right before that, Blake Gideon had a chance. Nevertheless, so yeah, you had that happen, and then Oklahoma just shellacks Texas Tech in Norman on a Saturday night, and that's when like the jump around tradition at OU really took off, because that was the song that they played like 100 times that night, and the crowd was just rabid and insane. And of course, Texas had beat Oklahoma earlier in the year in Red River. So then Oklahoma beats Tech at the end of all that, and they emerge. And then eventually the controversy of them getting the nod over Texas in particular. So yeah, that was a crazy ass year. That was the Big 12 though. You sort of talk about like elite teams, like those 3 in the South Division alone. That was pretty salty. And then of course Oklahoma turns around and doesn't win a national title because
that's what they do. They get to that game.
I mean, you know what? If you're going to talk about Nebraska, I mean, they don't win national titles anymore. They play for them sometimes. They never win them. Not since 2000. That's another year where they fell just short. But that was a hell of a fun year in the Big 12 with some really damn good teams. And that was all just not a 3-way conference tie. It was a division tie. Big 12 South division tie. Different sport almost.
By BCS, right?
Yeah, it was the BCS.
Down the decibels. By the way, I looked this up on the Rocky Kalmus had 431 career tackles.
I mean, he's awesome. I just don't know like where,
because I'm voting on it right now. And in the middle of the next break, I'm going to get into it. Yeah.
He was awesome. They had a whole string of guys that were awesome back then. And Teddy Lehman was certainly like the face of Oklahoma football, or one of the faces of Oklahoma football back then. But yeah, like I just don't know off the top of my head, which is what I was repeating earlier, of just like, okay, where does that stack up? Like, does that mean he should automatically be a Hall of Famer, or is he like, they make him like 17th all time? You know, I don't know that right off top. So I'd have to do some studying to vote for this, but it's a super strong list of names. I mean, I think Mike Leach should absolutely be in, and for the reasons Ralph said, of just the influence alone. If you talk about a guy who changed football, his fingerprints are all over it. I mean, they're at Oklahoma State right now. Point anywhere you want. They're at Baylor right now. We don't have to leave the state. There's like multiple schools that have his imprints on them, much less that have expanded out and gone national as well. And all the good he did out on the West Coast when he was at Wazoo. And I mean, I can only imagine what he would have done over time in Starkville if allotted more time to build out. How many times he could have like upset Lane Kiffin, like it just had just crazy outcomes. Like we really missed out on a lot by his life getting cut so short, but he made a huge impact. I definitely think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame this go around, but it is a very long list of some really incredible names for sure.
RG3, I didn't even bring that up. I was going to use him he's also a part of that Hall of Fame ballot. The coaches on the ballot include Jackie Sherrill, Dennis Franchione for his lifetime of not just what he did for a little bit at A&M or at Alabama. John Makovic, formerly, of course, at
I don't see Makovic as a Hall of Famer. Off the top of my head there, I don't see him as a Hall of Famer. Who was the name you mentioned, right? Jackie Sherrill. Like, that's one of those, like, how long has he been on the ballot at this point? I mean, it's one of those, like, it's when they had the 50s candidates.
Tommy Tuberville. He's got a pretty good record at Mississippi, Ole Miss, Texas.
Hall of Famer, though? No.
This year's class, there's an opening for Mike Leach for this year's class. Probably on there, Jackie Sherrill, who had a hell of a run. Of course, he also ran into foul trouble with the NCAA, but he had a pretty good run. He rebuilt some programs, and so that'll be interesting to see. I got to think Mike Leach will get in. I think the emotional part of it too, with the battle to get him on the ballot.
Yeah, I think he'll probably get in, but we'll see. I'll be curious to see and go over that list whenever that does come out officially. And old Tommy Tuberville, yeah, if there's a Hall of Fame for bailing on a team in the middle of recruiting dinner, he'd be first ballot. There's various other examples of getting into some type of Hall of Fame. He'd fit the bill, but college football coaching Hall of Fame, I don't see it for him in that regard. Yeah, I look forward to whatever that list looks like on the other end and kind of going over those names that do get inducted. It's going to be a star-studded class.
General Ursus, don't forget now, Tuberville at Auburn had that unbeaten team in 2004.
He did, yeah.
And they got left out. They were really good.
Oklahoma.
OU and USC, right?
Yeah. Oklahoma turned around playing for another national title and got destroyed by USC. I remember watching that game, and I think it was Mark Bradley who had the fumbled return early on. Maybe it wasn't him, but for some reason I remembered Mark Bradley, and I remember that like the dam just burst once that happened. It just felt like, uh-oh. And I think it did burst after that. 55-19 was the final, if I'm remembering correctly, and that was an ass whooping. And, yeah, you're right. Tuberville had that great team. And that's a team that goes, this is why we need a playoff. It's undefeated Auburn, and they can't play for a national title. Like, that's crazy, is it not? And now you may say, well, that's why we only need 4 teams, but that's a team that gives you an example of why there needed to be something. If you got a team.
Rarely there were 3 unbeaten teams.
No, it was very rare, but it did happen.
It happened,
Yeah, it did happen. And the fact that Auburn did not get a chance to rightfully play for a national title is, that's garbage. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't a good coach. I just don't immediately think of like Hall of Famer right away. But I'm just kind of going off gut reaction there. But that Auburn team is definitely one of the main examples for the expansionist arguments for sure.
Yep. So that's part of who the coaches are. I'm going through the ballot. I'll worry about finalizing my votes and all that later on when I'm focused on that this evening. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, he was covering the Brendan Sorsby hearing earlier today in Lubbock. Jarrett Ramirez will join us from RedRaidersports.com. I just think he did a great job. An update from Oklahoma City, Texas. They're in the championship series. They swept Tennessee today, who beat them earlier in the tournament 5-2, and they just polished them off 4-0. So they're in the championship.
Good job.
I mean, I'm telling you,
they brought it up and didn't say like, well, I hate them, but they won earlier today.
I told Paxton, who came in with I'm not going to put my fingers up like he did. You know, he was kind of
the hook 'em?
Simmering. Yep, he was simmering. He came in hot, and I told him, I said, you missed the segment of a lifetime with me talking about your UT football and athletic department. They won the rowing championship. They're going to win softball. And I mean, probably maybe the men's golf. I mean, they're about to go clean sweep here in the next 7 to 10.
And they should. Yep. Like, that's the thing is they should. I mean, there's no excuses for UT to not be the best athletic program in America right now. There's not an issue at athletic director as there has been at other times. I mean, the Steve Patterson, I wish they would have signed him to a lifetime contract as a non-Texas fan. But Del Conte is made for that job. The era is made for that school, and it's got a lot to offer. And it's all coming out like the way you would expect it to when you're able to fully flex your financial location and just historical muscles the way that they're able to do nowadays. I mean, a top-tier athletic program, but then you add in the ability to go and recruit how you can nowadays and to get players the way you can nowadays. I don't think anybody's more well-suited for it than them. Being in a major city, like, there's not a box they don't check. So I'm not surprised at all that they're thriving, and especially because coming alongside of that, they've got really good coaches.
Yep.
Like Mike White was a really, really, really good coach, and you knew when you brought him in, it was only to win national championships. It wasn't like win the SEC. It was like, no, you're going to win national titles, and that's across the board. So, Oklahoma had a great run, but
they
Texas,
take Schlossnagle away from A&M.
They took Schlossnagle away from A&M. I mean, Sark was a kind of a not a controversial, but there was people that were like kind of like, I don't know about Sark because of his history or whatever, but that was a splashy hire for damn sure. And you can go up and down the board of like, they got elite head coaches at every sport. an elite athletic director, and the ability to pony up in whatever category with everybody. So I would be more shocked if Texas wasn't winning the Directors Cup every year. I think it would be an indictment, if anything. But yeah, it sounds like they're having a really good spring, and looks like there's still some more hardware to come. But we'll see if Alabama or Texas Tech can say otherwise. They still got to play one of those two, and we'll see how that goes coming up here in just a little bit.
Watch this show live, because as soon as it's over, because of my comments about UT, we're going to blowtorch this show. I'm telling you right now. No, they are on a really good run. Paxton, welcome to today's show. When we come back, Jarrett Ramirez, he covered that hearing today. Brendan Sorsby and the NCAA going at it with his Jeffrey Kessler, who's the big bad wolf, who took 40 minutes with his opening statements to kind of plant the seed. We'll discuss that with him on really kind of what he felt and what was that like today in the courtroom.
Yeah, and I know there were some comments earlier about being tired of the Sorsby story. I think if you're a Tech fan, you just want to know who your quarterback is and move on. I think other fans kind of maybe just don't care about Brendan Sorsby or Texas Tech because you're an Auburn fan or whatever. But as much as I want there just to be a decision as well, it is very interesting, and it is a very big deal. Whatever comes out of this, it is a very big deal, because regardless of how tired you are of hearing about it, we got to cover it, because it directly affects Tech in an obviously major way, but also it affects all of college sports as a whole. We're either going to sit here and give a pass to a guy for blatantly breaking rules all over the place at multiple institutions, betting on his own team, doing all the things you're not supposed to be allowed to do. We're either going to give a reprieve for that and just open up Pandora's box entirely to mental health excuses for breaking rules. And then on the other hand, we're either going to do that, or we're going to just shut this S down and let everybody know moving forward. There is no mental health excuse if you're gambling on your own team. There is no like this or that or the other. Like, this is the one area you are not going to beat us in court. We might lose eligibility cases. We might lose contractual cases. We might lose television cases or something, but we are not going to lose when it comes to athletes gambling in college sports on their own sports. Like, that's the line that will not be crossed, or will it? And that's what's so interesting about this case. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing Jarrett, who was actually there and can kind of break it down a little bit more. But I will be glad when we just hear something, hopefully, in the next few days.
All right, when we come back, the rest of what we do here on the Smoke Show in 365 Sports. I have not said a thank you, and I should, to Rez, Michelangelo Flores, Houston Hall, Garrett Ross, Andrew Valade, and also Logan Begessi. We appreciate you. Hit the like button if you don't mind as we hit the break. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, as a new month has started, and they will turn right around and have incentives, discounts, and much more for you as you head into the summer. There's a lot of times you look at the percentage of when cars are bought. I bought the one I have back at Alan Samuels in late May of 2020. There, you might be one of those, hey, we're going to be on vacation for the next couple of months, driving all over the country or whatever. It's time to get a new car. If you can do that, good for you. And if you need a great truck, Ram truck, of course, honored and awarded year after year, many, many times on the lot at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Jeep Wagoneer. It's a spectacular SUV. I've even had one of those when I've gone on the road. I'll be traveling Thursday, flying into Tampa, and I'll look to see if there's one available. Or Jeep Grand Cherokee, fantastic SUV too. Plus they have a good big chunk of variety and really nice pre-owned cars like the one I bought in 2020. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO, David Gray in charge of the sales department, and all those right there next to him in the office, and the people, the men and women that can help you test drive a vehicle to make sure you get what you want. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
I have a lot of friends reach out to me about buying vehicles for their fleet and their business, and I always recommend Allen Samuels. You see a lot of businesses running different brands, but I really think Rams are the best looking ones out there. They're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you get what you need, and they're always going to take care of you on the service side and the sales side.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
So this morning, after getting up and doing what I do and working out and then getting back and kind of start to work on business, sponsorships, and this show, I started looking for information on the hearing with Brendan Sorsby trying to regain eligibility, and of course at Texas Tech, and what the NCAA was going to also argue against him. Jeffrey Kessler on Sorsby's side, among others. And Jared Ramirez, RedRaidersports.com on Twitter. It's a great follow at Jared D. Ramirez, was the person that I locked into. And I contacted Chris Level, who's a part of that same site, obviously, and he said, Jared's been working with us for a few years. He's great at what he does, and he's right. Jared, thank you for your time joining us with Craig and David Smoke on 365 Sports. So there's certain things like this that I would keep my attention because of the story, but then there's a lot of legalese. So have you had that kind of background to make sure there's a difference between what's said and what matters and rulings and all that anyway?
Man, I'll tell you this, and I appreciate y'all having me on. And I think Level would probably tell you the same thing. We're a bit over our skis here. I'll tell you just personally, I don't have very much experience. I really have none. With the legalese and all that sort of stuff. So today's deal, there at the Lubbock County Courthouse, definitely a new experience for me. It was nice to go in there and kind of get my feet wet a little bit in a new environment and just, covering Texas Tech from a little bit of a different angle than what I'm used to.
Well, let me tell you, you did a great job. And what I like, how you did that was you didn't try to get opinionated. You just told the story of what was being said by whoever was in that courtroom. It was very well done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's, like you said, that's our job, right? We go in there, we tell the story, what's going on, whether that be football field or basketball court, press conference room, whatever it is. I mean, we're trying to tell the story and really just what I went in there to try to do is just how much of this info, how much of what these guys are saying, how much of that can I put on the timeline, just because there's, not really any other way for anybody to get that kind of info. So just went out there and tried to do that.
Well, as Smokey said, man, you did a really good job. And I've long said now, I wish I would have had the foresight to go get like my sports agent degree and a law degree and a financial degree, because I didn't think I need all those things covered in college sports. But here we are in this era where I feel like you could use all of those things. So, Jarrett, can you just kind of set the table for us as far as what the scene was like? I mean, was there was it a bustling courtroom? Kind of how would you describe just the lay of the land and kind of what you walked into initially?
Yeah, I think it was a lot more tame than I anticipated. I showed up probably about 8:15 or so probably about 45 minutes before we got going. Get in the courtroom and you see the NCAA's representation was in there. Brendan Sorsby's legal team showed up, and then the judge Ken Curry showed up as well. We all kind of huddled around, or several of us did, outside of the courtroom, just waiting to see if Brendan Sorsby would actually be there. And then it probably got to like 3 or 4 minutes before we were going to start. It's like, hey, I don't think he's going to be here. So went on from there. And again, I mean, we're sitting in there and we're watching these guys just kind of do what they do best. You hear the stories about Jeffrey Kessler and knowing his background and the kind of cases he's had. I had somebody sitting behind me. We took probably about a 15-20 minute break somewhere in between there. And they're like, man, this is like watching Michael Jordan go to work. I mean, it was insane. Just watching Jeffrey Kessler go on. His opening statement was like 45 minutes long. So we're watching these guys go back and forth, and it wasn't as rambunctious or as crazy as you might have thought. And I think part of that too is just because Brendan Sorsby wasn't actually there. But it was definitely professional, and it was well ran, and that's really kind of all you could ask for in that kind of setting.
So, Jarrett, nobody questions whether Brendan Sorsby broke rules. Like, that is proven. We know that. There's records, everything. Like, by the letter of the land, there's an easy decision to be made, but it's Jeffrey Kessler's job to sow some seeds of doubt and maybe some sympathy and just try to find a different angle. And he had a very interesting comparison when he brought up a case of a former Indiana coach that I hope he could talk about and elaborate on. And I guess the big difference I saw there was this guy didn't bet on his own sport as Brendan Sorsby did, but was that argument by Jeffrey Kessler one of the more compelling things that you heard today?
It was. And I think the interesting part about that one was it didn't come up until the very end. I mean, it was right there towards the end of his closing statement. He didn't mention it before that. It definitely wasn't on the forefront of any of our minds going in. He just kind of brought it up there at the end, said, hey, there's this Indiana coach thing that you look at the penalties that coach received. I think numbers I saw was maybe like 700 bets, well over $300,000, and he received like a show cause penalty and then a 30% season suspension for the next time he coaches in the NCAA, which he's no longer. But if he were to return, he'd have that suspension. Kessler, I think, did a great thing there by holding that until the very end. They didn't lean on it. It wasn't something that was like the crux of their argument or anything like that, but it's something that, as closing statement, it makes you think a little bit like, kind of let's go back and look at that and see like, oh, well, here's how the NCAA handled that one. And I've had one of my coworkers kind of go in there and kind of dive into that a little bit more. I know I certainly will as the days go on, as we kind of keep waiting for a resolution here, waiting for a decision. But I think Kessler bringing that up at the very end, certainly something that I think a lot of people are talking about now.
Yeah, anything that allows the judge to maybe, who's supposed to walk in the door with no bias, right? None. Even if he walks in the door after all the documents, he says, he can't play. What? He can't do that. You're just trying to get his attention, right? You're just trying to get his attention. I thought it was a brilliant. Did Kessler, in your opinion, was he not the 800-pound gorilla, but he talked for 40 minutes, as you mentioned, Jarrett, right off the top before anyone was able to say anything from the NCAA side of it?
Yeah, and the way I described it to someone earlier, I think they pointed this out to me too, and I went along with it. He pretty much threw the kitchen sink at him from the beginning, like you said, and like we both mentioned there. 45 minutes opening statement. It even got to a point, I think, around 35 minutes where Judge Curry was like, "Hey, man, this is your opening statement. Like, you got to wrap it up." And he just kept going. They did their closing statements, and Kessler went first, and I think he had time remaining after the NCAA was done with theirs, so he just kept going. I mean, he definitely, he put everything out there that he needed to put everything out there. I think he put all the arguments out there for sure.
So, Jared, as a guy who covers Texas Tech, hopefully you can take your bias cap off like we all can when it comes to certain matters. Are you more compelled or less compelled about Brendan Sorsby's odds after hearing what you've heard today?
Well, I think anybody will tell you it's still pretty slim. I think the odds have been pretty slim since the outset. I think as the more facts have rolled in and the court documents have been filed, I think anybody looking at this objectively will probably tell you it's pretty slim. Now, I will say I do think that the argument that Sorsby's team is fighting for, like you said, you're trying to gain some sympathy, kind of maybe just look at that gray area a little bit and say, like, well, I mean, he didn't bet on any games he played in. They can count on that. The more stuff that's come out as far as it goes, I think it's a little, people get a little reactionary and they might think one way or the other. I still think it's pretty slim. I think anybody looking at it that way, looking at it, like you said, unbiased, would probably think so. I think the mental health angle of it, they really dug into that, and that's really kind of what they're standing on. And so, I mean, they're going to keep fighting that until, they did it today. So we'll see. Again, I think it's an uphill battle, but the arguments were, they did all they could.
Go ahead, Craig. I got to follow up after that.
They don't really have a lot of options, right, Jared? I mean, there's no like, well, this evidence is fabric. It's like, no, the evidence is all there. So it's like, we're going to attack the NCAA, make them the bad guy, and then also lean on, hey, mental health issues. And I mean, it's about the only options that you have, but it seems like they put together a pretty good defense on the NCAA side of things. Did anything stand out to you other than them just kind of sticking to the facts of like, this is how it's always been, this has always been wrong? Like anything that stood out to you from what they presented today?
Yeah, I think Taylor Askew, their lead counsel, lined it up pretty well. I think he mentioned, the NCAA, I think he said they're happy that Brendan Sorsby's going out and seeking this treatment and wanting to get help and wanting to get his, gambling under control. But then, I mean, pretty quickly within his opening statement, he lays that out there and goes, but the rules are what the rules are. I think he even goes on a little bit further later on and said something to the effect of, you don't just get a get out of jail free card because you're good at throwing a football. I think their position is like he said. I mean, the rules are the rules, and Brendan Sorsby, in their eyes, has to be held accountable for these rules. And so that's kind of the stance that they took. I will say they're on the mental health deal. They're kind of fighting two different angles of it, on pretty much on the same point. In the affidavit that they filed, they got a letter from the gambling counselor that Brendan Sorsby worked with when he was in Arizona, and pretty much said, like, hey, he needs this. He needs football. He needs structure. He needs, he needs people checking on him and keeping him in line. He needs that so he doesn't fall back further into gambling. And then the NCAA's counter to that was, well, why are we going to send him into a situation that triggered his gambling in the first place? So, I mean, you can look at either side of that coin, say like, yeah, he does need the structure. But then the NCAA also made a good point saying, hey, college football and sports in general is what led him into this addiction in the first place. So like they said, and I think they made a great point saying that, why are we going to put him back in that situation? You can look at it either way. I think both points are fair. Both points are good. So yeah, I think that's really kind of what stood out today too.
All right, so if you look at the the overview of this, Texas Tech fans obviously would like to see him eligible because that's the reason they brought him in. Obviously, the coaching staff, et cetera. But there also seems to be this, God, just please, can we move on? What would you say if the decision comes back and he can't play and it's continue to be ineligible? What would you just say would be the part of just a relief that they know a decision and they can move on, whether it's the football program, you don't want a distraction much longer, or the fan base?
Yeah, and I think as we've progressed through this, and I think because, I mean, this deal's been going on for a little bit over a month, I think I've seen that feeling kind of rise a little bit. You know, I work on a message board. I read Twitter all day long. So you're starting to kind of see that opinion a little bit more of, hey, you know, is this even worth it? I mean, do we want to keep dealing with this? So I think to some extent, you know, some resolution there would be welcome because, I mean, we just finally get some closure and say, hey, okay, is he playing or is he not? And if he's not, okay, now let's look at plan B. And we've already kind of dove into a little bit before, but now if that is what happens, then that's where you can totally shift to.
All right. Hey, great job. And for you to sit there and say to us at the beginning that you kind of walked into a room that you didn't know what the furniture looked like, I want to reiterate you did a fantastic job. I reached out to you because of that. Really well done. Get a little rest tonight, buddy, and thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
Jared Ramirez from RedRaidersports.com on 365 Sports.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many things to kind of try to interpret, and I think he did a good job of hitting all the notable points. And certainly, if you want a good summary of what all took place today from all sides, then go check out his Twitter feed and can see it all in order of what arguments were made and when by who and kind of the tactics that were taken. And we knew going in that Sorsby doesn't have an argument about whether he did it or not. That's not even debatable. So Jeffrey Kessler's got so many options he could take, and he's taken the NCAA and their own rules, and they're the bad guys. And also Brennan Sorsby's a victim of gambling culture. And look, these schools benefit from gambling advertisements. They're hypocritical. It's the schools, it's the NCAA, and this poor young man's made some poor decisions, but he should be able to still play college football and get a break here. And if you believe that to be true, then you were probably swooned or swayed by what he had to say today. If you don't buy that mental health should be taken into account as far as that being a reason as to why he should have this unprecedented decision in his favor, or you may think the NCAA sucks, but you know it's not their fault that Brennan Sorsby's gambling and breaking their rules, then you aren't swayed by what Jeffrey Kessler had to say. I look forward to the decision, and I look forward to everybody being able to put this to bed one way or the other. And either by the end of the week, we're talking about how this is Will Hammond's team and we're getting the latest on his injury, or we're talking about, okay, well, Brennan Sorsby's going to be gone for like 3 games and he'll be back. And what does that look like for Tech? And they got that the Houston game early on that I really do feel. I'm sitting here going over doing all these records predictions. I just got through K-State last night, and I think that should be up. I'm high on them in year 1 under Colin Klein. But that Houston Texas Tech game in Lubbock in like week 4, if he's not there and Will Hamm is not healthy, that suddenly becomes very, very interesting, even on the road for the Cougars, because I think they're going to be pretty good. And that could be one where you're just sort of in a still figuring it out stage with whoever's at quarterback for you, that maybe that's where Tech could slip up. But the good news is we'll at least be able to talk about that in that way and know for sure by the end of the week. Like, is Sorsby available? Yes or no? Is Hammond going to be available? Where is he at? We'll be able to talk about all that and put this behind us. And I'm sure Brennan Sorsby's ready to put it behind him. I'm sure Tech's ready to put it behind him. Everybody involved is ready to put it behind them. But, yeah, interesting day in court, and look forward to what the next few days pan out with as far as where this ends up ultimately. It's been like a month of talking about it, and it's been really interesting. But I think everybody's just kind of ready for the conclusion at this point.
Yeah, there was a time, and I can't put a thumb like on the time in the offseason the NFL was going through, and General Urs has made a comment about every offseason now there's so much, and a lot of it is about football, but it's not really football. From the college football playoff to whatever else, and now you have this decision coming up too. The NFL went through a stretch where you had Deflategate, you had Spygate, you had the Hernandez trial,
Yeah,
or
don't
at
forget
least
about Sean Payton putting bounties
Sean
on guys.
Payton and Bountygate, and you had, along with that, there's obviously the offseason of NFL players being accused of a lot of things. Unfortunately, one of the worst, of course, is the one when you're like beating women or allegedly. And it got to a point where just me as a sports fan, doing shows or not, I just kind of I got turned off by that. Not even the ugliness of the stories. It's just about, God, can you just breathe? And there's a little bit of that. Not that I love college football. And when the NFL season hits November and they take the stretch drive, I love the NFL season, opening weekend too. But I got to a point where I was just, damn, can we just breathe? And I wonder if college football, not at a breaking point, but that seems to be more of what we talk about rather than who's this or that.
Yeah, but it's a weird complaint when you do a college football show. Because
No. I'm not complaining about, because this is my job.
Right.
I'm talking about there's me, you, what we do as this job, which is our job is to report and have opinions and also have content and get guests. But there's also me, the person, as a college football fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much. I guess, I'm not a fan of more and more lawsuits. I just want them to get to a point where this just stuff makes sense. It's that's as simple as I can put it. I just want things to make sense. And then if there's a lawsuit over it because you want to challenge that, that's fine. But as we've seen with Owen Heineke and Trinidad Chambliss and Chandler Morris and so on and so forth, Joey Aguilar, among others, it just depends on the approach the lawyer took, maybe where the courtroom is, especially for Trinidad Chambliss and the crying alum judge. I'm just never going to not stop down when we mention that, because that still bothers me. It's not even the decision that bothers me. It was the manner in which the decision was delivered. Just let you know it was all a bunch of BS, just Homer BS. The decision might have been the right decision in the long run, although I know a lot of people will tell you that it wasn't. But the fact that that decision was tainted by the Homer judge is just what really bothers me about that one in particular. So anyways, I would like to get to a point where you just know, no, I'm sorry, you can't file a lawsuit over your 7th year of eligibility. That's not allowed here. So that story goes away. Or you gambled. There's no, but I was trying to be more a part of the team, or but that was 2 schools ago, or but I've got mental health. It's nope, there's no lawsuit because people know you don't gamble, because if you do on your sport, then that's it. That's the death. Brennan Sorsby shouldn't be the example that's the outlier. He should be the example that's set so that everybody knows after Brennan Sorsby that you absolutely, positively cannot take that chance. That's what he needs to be. He needs to be the message sent to every athlete of, remember Brennan Sorsby? Think twice before you decide to bet on your own sport and think you might get away with it. Or think twice before you try to get on your cousin's bet MGM account and try to put a parlay together or whatever. He needs to be the example, not the outlier that gets this second chance, in my opinion. But Kessler presented a compelling case, and I know what you mean. I get tired of the playoff thing all the time. It's just constant, the playoff and this scramble, and oh my God, the deadline's at the end of the year, and if we don't get done, and then next year it's going to be the same thing. I would like to get to a place where just the rules make sense, the playoffs set, there's no tweaking and changing except for just things that kind of need that. But that's not where we are right now.
No,
they're still dealing with the ramifications of all of the stuff that they could have prepared better for, that they didn't, outright refused to prepare for, stuck their head in the sand on, hoping that miraculously some politician somewhere would come flying in on a golden parachute and give them rules that have never existed for anybody else. They preferred to do that than rather deal with it head on when they could have, and could have made it a lot less messier. So that's why we are where we are. I do think that this will be a step forward, though. Like I said, it's either going to be example set or all hell breaks loose. And then that chapter will be over with. And then hopefully they get to a point sooner rather than later, where the playoff can just be whatever it is and stay that way for like 5 years at least, and just be that. And hopefully you get to a point where eligibility is, all right, 5 and 5. Like, that's all you get.
Yep.
Boom, that's done. So they're working towards it. But, man, when you think about just the amount of change to try to handle and deal with, and then try to do it with 500 different voices in 50 different states with hundreds of different schools, like, it's no wonder it's been really, really complicated. And it's no wonder that, there's probably a lot of people burnt out by it. But as people reporting on the sport, they are important stories, and this is a very important outcome that's coming up at the end of the week.
By the way, I want to mention this because we have to, because you hear about the massive trade today with the Rams in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett, the former fantastic player at A&M, traded to the Rams for Jared Verse, who was a phenomenal player at Florida State the year he transferred it from Albany, a first-round pick, and then maybe another draft pick or two. But my God, a big deal. I know that's enough out there where we brought that up, and I wanted to bring that up before we got to the Super Chats and more.
Well, thank you for killing off the radar tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to bring it up, but it's a monumental blockbuster trade. I mean, Myles Garrett seemingly stuck in Cleveland, deciding to be stuck in Cleveland with that new contract, but he gets his cake and eats it too, because now he's got a big old fat contract, and now he gets to go play for a team that could very well be in the Super Bowl, or is at least on the verge of it. And he is living life right now. Nobody happier than Myles Garrett, I would think, in the sports world today, unless I'm just some softball coach somewhere, maybe. Mike White's happier, maybe, but I don't know. I think Myles Garrett's probably the happiest dude in sports today. That was a massive one out of the NFL. Jared Verse, I don't know what his thoughts are, but I'd imagine he's probably like, the hell?
Yeah.
Because he's pretty damn good. But now he
was a part of that team that should have been in the playoff, right?
Yeah. Florida State, should have been in the playoff. He should have been, in the mix, but their quarterback got hurt, so they didn't get that opportunity. But another expansionist argument. Like we had the earlier one with Auburn. That's why we can't have just two. Well, in Florida State, you have that snub that created a lot of conversation, and they're still working through the playoff, as we talked about, amongst all of the other issues. But Jared Verse was on that Florida State team, and he was awesome there in his brief time, and pretty damn good in the NFL. But Myles Garrett's a freaking dude. He is a hoss, and that's an incredible pickup for the Rams and jersey buyers and Rams fan base especially. You got cool Myles Garrett jersey that'll be coming your way, I'm sure, very shortly.
One of the coolest stories about him, and then we do the Super Chats, is Myles Garrett. Oh, my God. He was at the High School Football Hall of Fame. What was it? He brought somebody to the draft with him. And I just went blank because it's a fantastic story. Let me Google it real quick. And I sat there in stunned silence because it was such a cool thing for Myles Garrett to do. Here are the Super Chats from today. We start with retired stockbroker. I hope Sorsby's rehab came with an "Oh Canada" lyrics as a possibility of the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, I saw some reaction when this story initially came out on his odds of the supplemental draft, whether he'd be given a waiver to participate in that or what that would look like. I think he's got NFL options, but the betting part of this will be interesting to see how those teams approach that. So, I mean, Canada could very well be an option for him. It's at worst an option for him, depending on how everything else falls. So, he may be singing "Oh Canada" before it's all said and done. But that was a guy, I did a video on all of the top quarterbacks that could be available for next year's draft. And it was 3 days later that Sorsby suddenly in this story. So he was already outdated, and a bunch of them will probably come back for another year anyways. But already that potential all-timer of a quarterback class, Sorsby's not going to be a part of that. He's either going to be supplemental or go play in Canada or do something else. Yeah.
All right, another Super Chat from Kim Coulter. I've had it. Sorsby is a dumbass. So a lot of the discussion at times about how Tech is blind and the fans, I'm sure they would like him to be eligible. There was a reason why they were excited when he transfer from Cincinnati, but there are many like him that are done with him and done with the story. If he was become eligible all of a sudden, they'd be happy for him. and they would root for him, but they are done with this drama here the offseason.
Because if you're not a Tech fan, there is no compelling argument for this guy to have a chance to play again. And the same would be if he was a Syracuse quarterback. I'm sure there would be some Syracuse people that, we don't know if he deserves it, but if he can play, that'd be great. But at a certain point, you're like, yeah, he's a dumbass. And then the thing about it to me that's real simple, and I don't know how much they touched on this, but bro, you know what you were doing. You were using multiple accounts. You were betting on a sport. They hammer that into your head as a college athlete these days. Maybe you can say they didn't do that 4 years ago in Bloomington or something, but he got that education at some point, if not there at Cincinnati, if not there at Texas Tech. And every time he broke it anyways, right? So it's like the dude has not given us any compelling evidence that he's actually remorseful. And yes, you look at the timing of him entering rehab, and yeah, it all seems a reaction to the news coming out when it did. But I'm a human. I have a heart. I'm hoping that he has gotten help. But yeah, he was a dumbass and he made really poor decisions. And I don't think anybody's going to cry if he has to live with the consequences, because all of us would have to live with those consequences. I don't think any of us would be special exceptions, but we'll see. I mean, until a decision comes down, there's 50-50 chance that maybe he is a special exception. But if I was a Tech fan, I would be really pissed. Yeah, I'd be really pissed that you were even put in this position to begin with, and that you're having to kind of hang by a thread and wait on this next decision to be made.
Last super chat from the day, and we appreciate those of you who are involved with that. And it is from Kim again. Excellent interview. That was with Jarrett Ramirez from RedRaidersports.com, who was inside the courtroom during the hearing between the NCAA and Brendan Sorsby and his representatives. All right, let's spin the wheel.
Thanks, Kim. Do you or have you ever owned a metal detector? No, I have never owned a metal detector.
No, I have never needed one.
Do people own metal detectors?
The ones that are the wand. We go into enough events, or even if you went into a concert or certain things, you have the one where you go through, like, for example, when we go to cover a college football game, the media entrance, there's a whatever
they
that
have
is.
that at the non-media entrances too. Yeah, the wand.
Do they really?
Yeah, of course.
No, I'm not talking about the wand. I'm talking about the little semi-tunnel.
They have that for everybody, media or not, yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, sometimes they even double down with the wand. But never needed one, never thought I needed one. I don't think I'll ever need one, but so the answer is no. Have you ever dinged the metal detector?
Yeah, of course. I've had keys in my pocket or whatever, but yeah, I've never had the need to own one. It's not, I don't live at Snoop Dogg's house or something where it's like a Hollywood party. I feel the need to pat people down or something like that. But maybe if you're those types of folks, you need to have a metal detector, metal wand on hand.
Interesting question. Nope. So the answer is no. Neither one of us have done that. I'll go in the chat room in a second to see if you have ever owned one yourself. Now to the quizzes. There are two of these. We are really blowing and going with this. Last Friday, we saved an 0-1 start to go 1-1, and here we go today. On June 1st, 1979, Seattle Supersonics won their only NBA title, defeating the Washington Bullets. What city is the franchise located in today after a controversial relocation?
So it's Oklahoma City, unless there's just some trickery in here somewhere.
Nope, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I remember that series. Jack Sikma, they had a really good team. Baltimore was the Washington Bullets, had won the NBA title, I think, the year before, beating San Antonio with the Fat Lady Sings, Dick Motta as the head coach, Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes, and others. So the answer is Oklahoma City. Rez, is the answer Oklahoma City? It is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're somebody that was born in 2009 and that was after this happened, you grew up and didn't really know any difference. But I think for most of our audience, you're pretty locked in on who this was. But yeah, it's been, 18-year-olds didn't know the Sonics. They've only known the Oklahoma City Thunder. So if you had a 16-year-old watching us right now, or a younger person, maybe they wouldn't have known that. I don't know. But coached by Lenny Wilkins, the 79 no superstar Sonics avenged their 78 finals loss to capture Seattle's pride. Following intense arena disputes, the franchise relocated in 2008 to become the OKC Thunder. However, Seattle legally retained the Supersonics name, iconic colors, and history, keeping banners ready for a future expansion team that they're probably going to get in the next few months, along with Las Vegas.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
That they're going to get in the next few months,
Yeah.
and Vegas will get their first ever franchise. And I fully anticipate that's what we're going to see in this next expansion go around. And curious if Seattle can make it longer lasting this time around. But I do remember when they left that was a really tough blow for Seattle fans. Like, that was a big ass deal that they were leaving, much less for a pro sports desert like
Seattle,
Oklahoma.
to me, was like San Antonio. That fan base just freaking loved them. That was it for them. I mean, they have the Seahawks, et cetera.
They got
the
everything
Mariners,
now.
But it just seemed back in the day, before they moved to Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma City had Durant, Harden, and Westbrook.
Well, the only thing that Seattle didn't have back then was the Kraken, but they've got that now. I mean, they had the Sonics and Mariners, but yeah, it was just I think to
What I
pluck
mean
them,
by that, no, it's not that they are just they
love
were
the Sonics
full on. Yeah,
They love this. Obviously, there's various factors into play as why a team has to move, but I do think they're going to get them back, and I think that's part of the cool deal with keeping the logos and colors. I wish Houston could have done that when the Oilers moved. I wish they could have kept the colors rather than the Titans owning that, because then they could have done the same thing and relaunched like I expect Seattle will at some point here. And I don't know what the timetable is at this point, other than it just all signs point to Seattle getting the Sonics back here pretty soon.
Yep, and they had a great run at the end of the 70s, winning their first and only NBA championship up until, well, of course, Oklahoma City won it last year. Spurs coming up against the Knicks. More on that tomorrow with Off the Radar. Second trivia question for us, quiz. 1999 NBA Finals featured an improbable matchup between the champion San Antonio Spurs and New York Knicks. What historical playoff seeding did those underdog Knicks hold? I'm going to say it's the 8th seed. Because all the other ones, who cares? Like second, fourth, fifth, whatever. So to me,
or 6th.
No, I'm just saying all those other numbers, but 8th seed would have been the one who was dead last. And to me, that would make that the historical playoff seeding.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to read too much into his icons here. And
well, first of all, he likes even numbers. That's Andrew.
Yeah, clearly. I have no earthly idea on what. I remember watching that series, though. I do remember vividly watching that series. So what'd you say, 8th? That's fine with me. We can go get a nice yawn there.
Yeah, I did, man.
Good. Glad Rez flipped to you right at the perfect time.
Rez, 8th seed, which got to be the 8th seed. Please say the 8th seed. It is the 8th seed. Yep.
Following a lengthy lockout shortened season. Yeah, that's I remember that now as well. 99 Knicks made history as the first 8th seed team to ever reach the finals, playing without a injured Patrick Ewing. New York Cinderella run was finally halted by Popovich's Spurs, driven by the twin towers of David Robinson and finals MVP Tim Duncan. San Antonio captured a 4-1 series victory to launch their legendary 15-year dynasty, and launch it did. Yep, they turned into a completely different Spurs organization after 99.
So think about this. They've won a bunch of NBA finals, and now they're playing for yet another one. And it is just amazing to me that the Yankees seem to get sometimes whoever they want, or the Lakers. But you think about the Spurs with Robinson and Duncan, and then, they had to go out and figure out who Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, et cetera. They had Kawhi
Leonard. They drafting those guys. This isn't like the Lakers having here, you want Luka Doncic out of nowhere?
Well, no, but they had to draft people too, the Yankees. But I'm just saying the Spurs have just really been – not everybody, when they even get it right there in front of them, make the right decisions, and they have with Robinson, Duncan, and Wemby.
You're joking. Wembanyama.
Yeah, Wemby. Yeah. That's his nickname, Wemby.
Which is short for?
Wembanyama.
Okay. Yeah, now you got it.
I did not, this team, I'm a lifelong Spurs fan. Never liked anybody else. But I don't know why. I just haven't been able to grab onto this team. Maybe I will watch in the finals. I'm not sure.
I mean, if you can't grab on at this point, I don't know what you can grab onto.
Yeah, it's a little shady. If all of a sudden I don't want to be one of those fans.
Well, my whole point with the Lakers thing was the Lakers more often than not get some random ass gift basket from God that they don't deserve to help keep their franchise more relevant, like a Luka Doncic trade, whereas the Spurs have done it seemingly from the ground up. and a little luck along the way and how the lottery ball bounces, getting a Wembanyama, for example. But yeah, they are really, really well ran and have been one of the best franchises in all of pro sports since '99. So I remember that series vividly, and we'll see what comes out of this next series, but I think it'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Now to the poll results for the viewership. What you have said. Who is your pick to win the NBA Finals? 40%. The Spurs in a tight battle. I would think that means going 6 or 7 games. Spurs quickly. 35%. Knicks grind it out. And the Knicks dominant in an upset win at just 4%.
I'm taking the Spurs to win, but I also had OKC beating the Spurs. So who knows what the hell. But, yeah, I'll take the Spurs, and I think the Knicks are going to give them a fight. So I'll say Spurs in a tight battle. Spurs
had the, second best record in the NBA behind Oklahoma City. I'm going to say Spurs. I think it will go 6 or 7. New York will maybe bring back some, they haven't won the NBA title since the early 70s.
We know. We've been reminded of it every 5 seconds while they've been playing throughout the playoffs.
I'm not watching. Yeah. I'm not watching it, but I'm just saying it's been a long, long time. All right, one more on the poll results. Thanks to Andrew Valade. Of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs about to begin. Who will host the Stanley Cup? 39-38. The Canes win a tight battle. Vegas grinds out to win the Cup. 39-38. Great down the stretch. 1 and 2 at the top.
Yeah, I think the Hurricanes had a little bit more rest. I think it's a total toss-up, just like the poll indicates there. I'll say Carolina wins a tight battle, the second option there. So I'll side with the slight majority, but Vegas is really, really good and very impressive in this past round. So should be a hell of a series. I mean, I think Spurs and Knicks should be as well, but I think this one definitely has like 7 games potential because both teams are playing really, really well right now. So that ought to be a battle and a good kind for hockey fans out there.
Quickly note to wrap it up, the Myles Garrett story was Babe Laufenberg. His son, Luke, was at A&M before he ended up going to UTEP and, of course, contracting the disease that eventually took his life. Myles Garrett invited him to the NFL draft to be with him as his guest, and he was a walk-on player. And Myles Garrett just kind of befriended Luke. Really cool story that Myles Garrett and Luke Laufenberg had such a great friendship up until he passed away. For Craig Smoke and for Rez, Andrew, Garrett, Logan, and also Houston, thank you, our sponsors. This is 365 Sports, The Smoke Show. See you tomorrow at 3.